I've got 6 p.m. If you'd all rise, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the Union Township Board of Trustees meeting, June 14th at 6 p.m. Mr. Campbell, please let the record show that all 3 trustees are present. Gentlemen, we have approval of minutes. Item 1, seek a motion to approve the May 10th, 2022 regular meeting minutes this time.
So moved. Second.
No discussion, gentlemen. Roll call, Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Gentlemen, item 2 is the approval of the May 10th, 2022 zoning meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Hearing no discussion. Roll call, Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mr. Campbell, do we have any correspondence this evening?
No, sir, I have none at this time.
Thank you. At this time, proclamations and special presentations. We have first on the agenda, presentation on cancer support community of Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky by Ms. Sonia Richards, Eastgate, Northern Kentucky Program Manager.
Hi, I'm Sonia, and I'm the Program Manager at Cancer Support Community, and I'm also a graduate of the Township Citizens Police Academy. So I'm excited to see all of you here. But our location is over in the Mercy East building across from TQL. We provide services for anybody affected with cancer. You don't necessarily have to be a cancer patient, but if you have a loved one that is a survivor or is passed away from cancer. We provide social activities, we do cooking demonstrations,
Mike.
healthy lifestyle classes.
She might walk up to the mic so they can hear her.
Sonia, Sonia, if you can step to the microphone.
I'm gonna push that microphone back,
And
it'll
you
come
can-
to you.
There you go.
Better?
Yes.
Okay. That way they can hear you on the live stream.
Okay, sorry. But we do provide a bunch of activities for everyone. We do social activities, healthy lifestyle classes. We have educational programs, and we have support groups that are facilitated by licensed social workers. Everything is free of charge. We are supported by donors and grants, and I just wanted to let you guys know that it's out there. I would love if you have any information for me that would help me with my outreach. We're kind of the best kept secret right now in Union Township, and we don't want to be. We want everybody to know about us. So I have my business cards that I'll leave back on the table, and then for all of you, actually brought a bunch of folders with information in it for you. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me, and we'd love to have you there. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Sonia.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, at this time, we have the Union Township Years of Service Recognition Program for June 2022. Tonight, we'll be recognizing
Thank you, sir.
Jimmy Garrison, the Union Township Service Department, celebrating 5 years of service, June 12th, 2022. And Jimmy, where you at? I'll bring this around to you.
Stay down there. I'll come to you.
Gentlemen, we have next on the agenda the Union Township Police Department Honor Guard Competition. Chief Gaviglia is going to introduce us.
Wait a minute, don't we have Joe Pangalo in that green?
We'll push them next.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Question was asked for Joe Pangallo and Matt Green. They're listed on our agenda. They're unable to be here to celebrate it tonight, so they'll be with us next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Read the
Logue.
agenda.
Members of the board, thank you. As you're aware, the Honor Guard traveled to DC last month and competed against 10 other teams from very large agencies, Chicago, Florida State Highway Patrol, and the like, and we show up with a 50-man department. This is probably our 10th trip to Washington, D.C., and for the second time, we won the Chief Judge's Award, which is a remarkable award. That's where the Chief Judge were judged by the Army Honor Guard, and to win that award is very prestigious. So we won due to their dedication and all that they do. At the police department, everything's based on competition, promotions, everything. It's who's the best. We try out, members try out to be the Honor Guard. You see there's 9 of them, but only so many can compete. Then they have to try out to compete. Sergeant Williams, if you'll stand. Sergeant Williams runs the Honor Guard for me. He will introduce everybody, and again, my personal thanks to each of you. It's such a pleasure to be there in D.C. and watch our 9 best go up against the country's 9 best, and to come back with a prestigious award. Sergeant, if you'll introduce everybody.
Detective Scott Marshall, Officer Brad Rhodes, Detective John Powell, Officer Brandon Bob, Officer Derek Bennett, Officer Clay Zimmerman, and Officer Alex Bozak.
Excellent.
We'll be displaying the award once it arrives. So gentlemen, if you can remain standing, we have a proclamation for it. I think we'll get some pictures.
Yeah, thank you. You know, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, we do have a certificate of appreciation proclamation for you that we'll bring down to you to present. But proclamation to recognize the hard work, dedication of the members of the Union Township Police Department Honor Guard for all they do for the people of Union Township, being presented on June 14th, 2022, signed by the 3 trustees and the fiscal officer. Yeah, just really appreciate what you guys do. You travel all the way out there to DC and represent us on a national level, and that's incredible. So you guys all put in that time, dedication, and effort, and you know, you got to pop and lock them basically, right? I mean, I'm thinking back to boot camp. I think we're gonna hear about boot camp again here in a minute. So, but appreciate what you guys are doing. You just look so sharp and so good out there representing us on that national level. So, gentlemen, anyone has anything further?
Probably a good I'm intrigued.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, wear that mustache.
I still have to go see that picture.
All right. All right, at this time, we've got Christian James Mullis, CJ, Private Mullis. If you still, please rise and come forward. This is, we've got a certificate of recognition here for Board of Township Trustees, Union Township, Clermont County, Ohio, hereby presents this certificate in recognition to Christian James Mullis, Private, 42 Alpha, MOS, United States Army, here in Union Township, Clermont County, Ohio. A recognition to Private Mullis for his service in the U.S. Army and for his past service to the people of Union Township, being presented on June 14th, signed by all three trustees and our township fiscal officer. And I've got additionally here for you from a dear friend of mine, is a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, and it's his challenge coin. Warrior ethos on the back says, "I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade." And that's from Stephen Lee, and being presented for selfless service. So you're just back from boot camp. I've got my memories, fond memories of boot camp and training, and I know Mr. Dills does, and I know Mr. Becker's got family close in it as well. Any thoughts that come to mind as far as you start this endeavor of public service? And
I'm excited to start my journey.
it is an exciting one for sure. We've all been there, and I've been in your shoes with that excitement, the hesitation sometimes, being unsure, but your confidence is there, and you know the mission, and you come together as a team, and you can look to any of these officers over here too, they'll tell you. So it's incredible things you're going to be able to accomplish and do, and just stay committed and work, longer and harder, and build those relationships with those in your unit. It's going to be what continues to help lift you up anytime that someone's a man down. So, yeah, we appreciate you very much.
Thanks, CJ.
You decide you're done there. We welcome you back.
All right, gentlemen, I'll continue moving us along here. We have a presentation on 2021 expense deep dive by Trustee John Becker.
Okay, so first thing I want you to notice is I learned how to do a watermark. I'm very proud of myself. Next slide, you've seen this before. So this is the full year 2021 income and expense statement. This is what I use as a the baseline that anything I do in terms of any kind of reporting analysis from the detail has to tie out to this report, and I make sure that it does. If it doesn't, then I'm asking questions, trying to figure out what happened. So what I'm doing with these various presentations, I'm looking at 2021 because it's it's a full year of data, and I'm going to start doing 2022 at some point. And once I get those numbers, what do they mean? So at least having 2021, knowing what those are, and looking at 2022, I expect our expenses are going to go up. Whose expenses aren't going up? The question is going to be how much are they going up and why, and making adjustments or looking at making potential adjustments where we're going to need to. So that number at the very bottom, $69,412,000, is the number I'm going to look to tie to. So this first graph, and I just have a couple of brief takeaways on this one. I've only got, I think, 3 of these. is, this is the total, which includes the pass-throughs, which ties out to the 69,412,000. So the pass-throughs is the biggest amount of that, and of those pass-throughs, 23 million of the 29 million, 23 million is the bond anticipation note. We got another 4 million in transfers, and the rest of it is special improvement districts and lighting. The other thing I guess I want to mention on this, I'll go to the next slide and talk about it there. So on this next slide then, this is what I call real money. So this is $40 million, and this is taking the noise, or at least most of the noise, out of the data. So it takes out all the pass-through data. So, and I'm kind of proud of myself with the colors here, red for fire, blue for police, the parks are green, the roads are black, so I tried to get creative with some of this stuff. So as you can see, half of our total expenses of real money, $40 million, taking out the pass-throughs, half of it is simply police and fire, and they're split just about 50-50. So at the bottom, in the gold, those are money we pay out to the schools. So those are TIF payments that we do to make the schools whole. I'm going clockwise here. So next to the schools, you get that blue wedge near the bottom. That's capital, $4.3 million. And capital, that's just kind of a category I made up looking at some of the expenses. And this expense chart I use, it's called a expense audit trail. And this expense audit trail, it is every detail, every line item, every invoice of every expenditure. And it was 9,000 something, 9,300 line items and some 8,600 invoices, and I looked at every one of them. And fortunately, there was nothing on there called other or miscellaneous, but there was a lot of stuff called administrative. So where it made sense to put administrative in some of these department categories, I did, and others I did not. So I did look at it real hard. Now, is anybody else going to look at 9,600 line items a day to try to figure this out? No normal person would. I've been called a lot of things, and normal is not one of them. So on the second graph, or I'm sorry, this graph, after capital, so the capital is economic development, is land acquisition, improvements. It also included the firehouse, because I thought about putting the firehouse expenses that we just built on Beechwood into the fire expense, but decided just to leave that under capital because it was a major construction item. Also, TIF payments are in capital. And the next wedge, that goldish wedge, is debt, and that's principal and interest that we have on the debt. And what I want to point out, this continues to bother me. What I want to point out is we spend more money on debt, principal and interest on debt, than we spend on roads and parks combined. And the amount of debt that we've had has always been concerning to me. We got interest rates going up. The biggest piece of this is that bond anticipation note that I've talked about in the past. That's $23 million. And the problem with that is it is an interest rate swap with Royal Bank of Canada. And we in addition to the principal and interest, we also include true-up payments as part of all of that. So our fixed rate on that is 3.9%. And what I was told is that once the LIBOR rate, and LIBOR, that's an international benchmark, stands for London Interbank Offered Rate, something like that. So it's an international benchmark, and when that LIBOR rate gets up to 3.9, then there may be some decisions to make regarding that bond anticipation note. So I'm not sure how worried I need to be about all this, but it does concern me, and I'm continuing to watch it. So on the LIBOR rate, and it does track with the Fed funds rate, when I started doing this in March, the LIBOR rate was 1.38, in April it was 2.28, in May it was 2.67, and today's rate is 3.37. So LIBOR continues to go up and continues to concern me. Then the next wedge, the black one, as you're getting closer to the top now, is roads, 2.4 million. So in that, salaries and benefits are part of that, equipment, the resurfacing, so your asphalt expense. Also our TID payments, the Clermont County Transportation Improvement District, and I tell you, we get that money back and a whole lot more. That's really a great deal for Union Township. Traffic control expenses, salt, drainage, fuel, also liability and property casualty insurance is also part of that. So, and then the green wedge, parks, Similarly, salaries, benefits, equipment, rehabbing the tennis courts we did back in 2021, ball fields, shelters, dead tree removal, mowing, pond maintenance, kind of stuff you do in the parks. That's all what's in those numbers. Cemetery, same thing, salaries, benefits, equipment, fuel, the lantern lighting ceremonies in there, supplies, utilities. The last wedge up there at the top, or not the last wedge, but the smallest wedge, zoning. Again, salaries, benefits, equipment, legal ads, the Board of Zoning Appeals, zoning boards, all that goes into zoning. So that last one, as you get too close to the top there, other. So the question would be, well, what is in other? And I did an entire graph just breaking out other. So that's the last graph that I have. And so that's $3 million worth. So of that $3 million worth, salaries and benefits is the biggest piece of that. And I think Mr. Campbell and I sat down, we were talking about that. I think there's like 10 different people that are in administration. And, what happens in corporate America with these kind of, you can just think of them as overhead expenses. Most of the stuff on this slide is overhead. In corporate America, what companies would do is, in what's a procedure called cost accounting, they would take these overhead expenses and allocate them to the various departments and divisions and look at profitability, because profitability is determined by total cost. Well, the total cost of the headquarters, keeping the lights on and paying executive salaries, that all gets distributed somehow, some way, down to those various profit center departments. We don't need to do anything like that in government. I'm just pointing out this is the overhead expense, and it could be allocated out, but it really doesn't make sense to do so. But also there are some benefits in here that are not in some of the other departments. The flexible spending account expenditures is also in that. So again, moving down clockwise, you have maintenance. That's HVAC, sign removal. Sign removal. That's the commercial signs you see out on the roads everywhere, advertising whatever that people just kind of randomly put up. We pay somebody to pick those up and keep the township cleaned up. So that sign removals in these numbers. Also landscaping and repairs. The next one, that gold area, that's the post office. That's also a source of revenue. The taxes and fees then is the blue wedge toward the bottom. And so that's audit fees, and it is real estate taxes. That would be on commercial buildings that we rent out, because like on this building, for example, there would not be any taxes. There's a TQL wedge at the bottom, kind of the goldish color, rust color. Those are JED payments to TQL per our economic development agreement. Utilities is the black wedge there, $218,000, and that's going to be the usual suspects: Dukes and St. Bell, Verizon, also our water and sewer expense. That green wedge, systems. So that was something, again, that's a category I just kind of made up. So systems is just computer expenses. So it's computers, it's networking, it's Wi-Fi, cloud services, security software, and the such. So over on the far left, it's kind of a grayish wedge, outreach. Again, I kind of just made that term up too. So that was outreach. That's stuff I'm calling like concerts, fireworks. We have a lobbyist. And by the way, the lobbyist was instrumental in getting us $122,000 for the pickleball courts that we're going to be putting in at Klepper Park. So also the chamber, our newsletter, junk days. So I'm calling all that outreach because it's all for kind of public consumption. After that, it's kind of a pinkish wedge, is legal and CPA fees. Most of that is legal. That includes like ads, audit costs, that sort of thing. Supplies is the next one up, that bluish wedge, $58,000, just office, janitorial, sundries, that sort of thing. And insurance is that smallest wedge, and that is property casualty and liability. So some of these expenses were allocated to various departments. This is really the overhead expense, most of it really having to do with this building. And with that, gentlemen, that was my detailed deep dive on 2021. Are there any questions?
Appreciate it. Thank you. John, you put a lot of time into this. You did a lot of time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I actually put more time into last week's report, but it was just harder to work with.
Yeah.
It was various reports, and I'm trying to pull stuff out of PDF files and categories called other, and that was challenging.
Yeah.
Using this detailed audit report was relatively easy, because everything was not everything, a lot of stuff was kind of pre-organized. So this is police, this is fire. It was easy to pick stuff out. It was just when you got to that administrative column, it's like, what is this? And that's where I spent a lot of time kind of analyzing it. And then once I summarized that all by category, then I just did a pivot table, which then summarized everything in real nice, compact. And from there is where I drew the graphs.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeff.
With the, what's your high-level summary on the pass-throughs again, or is that kind of more to come a little bit?
Well, no, so the pass-through is, most of that is that bond anticipation note,
Yeah.
that we renew every year. It's, that was initially really confused me until I sat down with our finance expert to, have them explain it to me, that it's a,
That's the 25 million, yeah.
yeah, I think it's like 23 million, and this dates back to when Doug Walker was the administrator. So it's pretty old, and I think it's a 30-year bond, 40, I don't remember, 30 or 40-year bond, and it simply gets renewed every year. And the benefit to us is that fixed rate of 3.9. But again, with LIBOR going up and quickly, I just don't know what happens when LIBOR hits 3.9 or 4% in that range. I don't think we all turn into pumpkins or anything goes crashing to a halt. I guess my concern is that it's going to change the terms of renewing that bond in the future.
Yeah.
And that category called interest in principal and interest, I'm afraid is going to be going up substantially. And
Yeah.
that's what concerns me. And it's already,
Yeah.
like I said, more than we're paying on roads and parks combined.
All right.
I was on the previous.
Great to look at that, between the roads and parks combined, so. Yeah, and I remember from our earlier meetings this year, our regular scheduled meetings, though, you're addressing the LIBOR rate, and pay attention to that as far as the importance of, is it gonna continue the strategy of refinancing it basically every year, or have something locked in?
We'll have to cross that
Thank you.
bridge when we get to it.
Well,
I
it's
think-
it's coming a lot faster than I think you probably ever anticipated, seeing it rise to 3.3 already.
Yes. So I believe we're going to renew that bond, I think in August. And there's something on tonight's agenda to take care of that. But I would say after August, I think all bets are off regarding the future of that bond. I don't know.
And thank you. Thanks for the time you put into it. All right, gentlemen, we'll continue to move us forward the agenda tonight. Public comments. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak tonight for public comments? Yes, sir. In the blue shirt there. If you could please rise and come to the podium. Yes, please come up to the, and please share your name and address, just for the record.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very
My
much,
name's
sir.
David Bowers. I've been living here for a long time in Eastgate for over 20 years. I like it here a whole lot. The question I got is, I got a problem with, probably don't even belong to me or what, but I got a problem with I got neighbors that burn a lot of stuff all the time. And I got emphysema, asthma, COPD. I got a porch that holds 100 people. I had a wedding after 2 years ago on it. So I have guests come over. I sit on my porch, have a drink, watch, I cut my grass. My eyes are burning, my lungs are burning. So it's sad that my neighbors can control my lifestyle when I can go on my own property, come out of my own house. If I got out of my house and go to my car and go to Jungle Jim's, whatever, I still got to breathe in that crap, burns my lungs, burn my eyes. I've gone to the fire department before and talked to them about it. And they sent them out and talked to them. They said they'll shut it down, but nothing ever happens. They drive away and it's still burning crap. So I have to ask my guests to leave and go home. So, I mean, it's like simple things like even cutting my grass has become an issue. It's like I should be able to go on my own property and not be controlled by my neighbors.
Yeah.
It's just, I want to address that. And also, I live right behind Brentner Elementary. I live on Terrace Drive. And I know it's like, I was told there's only like a rule, if the grass goes above your knee, you get fined. Well, they haven't cut the grass one time in Brentner Elementary School, and it's all the way above my chest. But my question is, I go by the high school all the time, here in Eastgate, by the police department, and that grass is like this high, not high at all. It looks really good. But they ain't cut our grass not one time. So all of our neighbors in the neighborhood are taking care of the yard, weed eating, make it look pretty. But on the other side of the fence, it's like this high,
Yeah.
just like we're weed eating against our fences for nothing.
Okay.
So, but I talked to the fire department, it's like, nothing's really happened. I mean, they scold these guys and they just keep it burning. So it's just where it's controlled my life for several years, I'm sick of it. That's what I thought I'd just come to the meeting, just address it. I do love living in this county, but, people should have the right to go in their yard anytime they want to go in their yard. They should be able to cut my grass and say, well, I can't cut my grass now, you know, I got stuff burning, I have to wait till tomorrow. Or wait till, and they burn the stuff late at night most of the time. And the main thing is, some of them are construction workers, so I know what they're doing. They're taking all the crap home from construction sites, burn it, so I don't have to pay to dump it. For an example, I got Rumpke cans through Rumpke. My second garbage can, which is one of the big brown ones, all right, is only $12 more every 3 months. I got debris in my yard, like branches I cut. I stuff them in an extra garbage can. $12 every 3 months is nothing. These people, whatever they're doing, they can cut it and put it in a garbage can in Rumpke for $12 every 3 months like I do. And we take out a little bit each time, they never have to burn a single thing. But they don't do it, they don't care.
Yeah.
But then I don't want to go over and knock on the door and say, hey, can you please, I got a party coming over my house, and then what they're gonna do, they're gonna get mad and say, you can't tell me what to do, this is my property, there's 50-50 chance, they'll do that or it'll be crop to them, say, okay, you got a good point. But then you also gotta worry about, these guys know where you live, they can retaliate.
Yeah.
You know, tear up your cars that you paid $50,000-$60,000 for, you shouldn't have to go to bed and have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And I should be able to open up my windows in the springtime
Yeah.
and let the fresh air into my house. Well, I can't, because they're burning stuff, and the stuff's coming in my house, it's burning my eyes and my lungs, and that's in my house, I'm gonna get out of my house. But I do love living in this county, I've been here for a long time, I really enjoy it. But I decided I shouldn't be able to have the right to be able to do it on my own property.
I
So
think
if you guys can address the fire department, so I tried to talk to them, I was like, it's just, in fact, I Googled it, and it's Station 51, right there by the helicopter pad, I call it, and they only have a phone number on Google. So I have to drive up there in person, hit the little buzzer, wait till somebody come out and talks to me. Then I gotta tell them my situation. They drive back home, they show up, half hour or so. I mean, they're doing their job. But then they don't find nobody. I think they should be finding.
Yeah.
They should be finding. The community,
Well-
the community shouldn't have to put that crap. And we, as citizens, we pay a lot in taxes, we shouldn't have to deal with that.
Yeah. So, I might have caught, maybe missed your address. Could you restate your address for me?
4345 Terrace Drive. Right behind
4345
Brainerd Elementary School. Where it used to be.
Terrace. Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with your
Yeah,
location.
and for an
So
example,
we-
if you drive down Clough Pike, just where you turn on Terrace, the house right across the street is burning stuff 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's going by and seen the smoke going across the
Yeah.
Clough Pike.
Sir, Mr. Bauer,
Well, good, I'm
appreciate that.
sorry.
You know, we've heard you.
All right.
We'll dedicate, the resources to look into it for you.
Sir, if Mr. Bowers would be willing to provide me with a phone number, I'd be happy to take a look at it and give you a call and we can discuss further.
Sure.
But I need to take a look at it first. But if you wouldn't mind giving me your phone number, I'd be happy to
I appreciate your
take a look at it.
Yeah.
No problem.
If you could write
Absolutely.
your phone number down here so I have a way to contact you, and I'll be in touch this week.
Yeah, that's gotta be annoying, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's a real pain in the butt. And you're supposed to be old and retired to enjoy life, not supposed to be able to sit on your deck and have a beer or cut your grass.
You should certainly be able to do that.
Thank you,
I'll
Mr.
be in touch,
Bowers.
sir.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, at this time, is there anyone else that wish to speak this evening? Yes, sir, please.
My name is Chuck Raming. I live at 554 Brantner Lane. I don't know if this maybe should be under new business, but I'll throw it in the comments right here. I had a brief discussion with Craig the other day. This concerns sidewalks in the township. And I hate to say that the buck was passed, but he told me to call the county, and in speaking with the county planner, he threw it back to the township. Where I live, I live off of Mount Carmel, Tabasco, and that road, if you look at this county, is probably the highest density road in the county in terms of residential density. And there are many people walk up and down that street, and it's a lethal situation. And in driving around the township, you get the feeling that this is a very rural township. And you drive down Sailor, you drive down Clough Pike, sections of that, you drive down different streets, and they're old, they have the feel of those old two-lane country roads. This township's becoming very urban, and the density is picking up quite a bit. And I just feel like I'd like to see if there's some process or some, some planning that could be started and worked on in terms of how to implement, a sidewalk program, especially these streets that have to be retrofitted with sidewalks. I noticed like on Old 74, west of 275, there's that whole stretch up there to the new development, which is up there at the east end. They put in sidewalks there. There's the rest of that stretch is missing sidewalks whatsoever. Again, with Sailor, parts of Clough Pike, obviously Mount Carmel, Tabasco. And I'd like to see the township, actually work towards an implementation plan. It has to be done in conjunction with the county for funding. And I would like to see something, worked on that effort, because as we continue to develop, we continue to become more dense and dense, and there's more traffic, and I just feel like we should be looking forward and looking at something as simple as sidewalks. The township plan does state, pedestrian-friendly type of, goal in mind, so.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Okay.
sharing that this evening. I'll share personally, just for everyone. Actually, recently, I did reach out to our Duke Energy liaison to ask specifically about that Mount Carmel Tabasco. Because I said, I look at it and I said, what can be done? His answer to me is, it's just a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So that's the unfortunate thing. So you're hitting the nail on the head. You talk about as far as the grants and the ability to partner.
Yeah.
But it's nothing that's a short-term solution. But what it kind of drives back to is an overall strategic plan and vision to be able to put together for the township, and to look at how we can be accountable and execute towards that. Even if it's a goal that's out of reach, you have to have goals. So, and I'm sure Ms. Ayers will take a look at connecting with you on anything else to follow up
Yeah,
on
okay.
that. But
It's unfortunate when Mr. Becker did his graft, I didn't see any slot there for sidewalks.
he would include that under the roads,
Yeah.
I believe, at that time. But that's just what you're speaking. I recognize, we hear you. We'll
Yeah.
dedicate the resources to look into it more. If not, that we've already been taking a look at that as far as your new leadership team that you have up here as well. So,
Okay, thank
so
you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? Yes, sir.
So I am Chris Hicks from 444 Woodward Court, Cincinnati, Ohio 45255. And before I get into it, I just want to point up a little bit the folly of this. I asked to be able to make a presentation, and I was told I could do it at public participation, and I could have charts. Copies of charts could be made for each of you, which I think you have, and I could put charts back there, but I could not have the charts projected up here. And just two meetings ago, Mr. Becker was talking about the need to get rid of wasting a lot of paper in these meetings. So I'm going to do my charts. What I did, they're back there for anybody that's going to pick them up, and I was told I could put them there, but I put them on these big sheets, two-sided, because unfortunately, this way it's hard for people to see it. You guys have copies, but people at home that might be watching can't really see it probably, and that's unfair. And we taxpayers pay for this video system in here. So sometimes maybe instead of just inviting people from different community organizations for presentations, you should think about your own people here, even the ones in particular that you may not see eye to eye with. So I'm going to talk about the baby box. I'm going to try to go quick through this. And I appreciate seeing Monica Kelsey here, who's from the Safe Haven Baby Box Company, which I think is a 3-hour drive from here. So I'm glad to see her here. And this presentation is as much about the baby box as it is about what happens when you rush into something to get a political photo op without crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So I'm going to throw these down here as I do them. So I'm going to talk about the baby box. I'm going to really quickly go through 6 areas: money and taxes, the contract, the signs, the law, the minimum solutions that we need to implement now, and our new culture of secrecy and control. So I'm going to start with money and taxes. Money and taxes. We have an unfortunate thing I think is happening in this township where you guys keep using taxpayer money for political purposes. You did it when you spent $9,999.60, 41 cents below the limit for presentation in a meeting, and what I think is a payoff to the Cincinnati Nature Center for their political support of you. I think you're doing the same thing with the Safe Haven Baby Box. I think we're all pro-life here, at least the people I know up there. We're all very pro-life, okay? But this is $15,000 of taxpayer money between them and the installation charges that was thrown at this, rushed into for a political photo op. Let's compare to what happened in Delhi. So Delhi has a Safe Haven Baby Box. It was entirely funded by donated money, not taxpayer money. Discount Tire paid for the box, Turner Construction paid for the install, and Zuber Safety and Security paid for the security monitoring equipment. Here, we were in a little bit too much rush. We paid $10,000 to the Safe Haven Baby Box Company. I think it's actually $11,000, but part of that's fees, for a leased box that we don't even own. And where we have to then pay $200 a year, and then actually more, which I'll talk about in a second, with a private company that, based on my calculations, has raked in more than $1 million on these. But it's good for politicians to get their photo op out of it. Here's your guys' photo op. I feel like you spent more time working on the photo op and getting the outfits color coordinated than you did reviewing the terms of the contract involved with this baby box. So let's talk about the contract. Let's talk about the contract. You know, what happened in Delhi when they did a contract? The contract was approved in a trustee meeting as part of a resolution where it was presented to the public. You guys didn't do that. The contract was never presented in a meeting. You just authorized Corey Wright to go make an agreement. So it never got presented. You guys never did, like what the Delhi trustees did here, sign their names next to that contract as having approved it. So in the contract, there's some things that maybe you guys didn't pay attention to. One thing that I found was surprising is that it's leased, not owned, and that any maintenance on it is at our expense, not theirs. Okay? The provider provides any maintenance to the box. In addition, there's the annual fee of $200, and get this wording, I don't know who would agree to this in a contract, other associated expenses as determined from time to time by Safe Haven Baby Box Company. What does that mean? What does that put us on the hook for? I was also surprised in the contract, you guys might not have saw or paid attention to, is this disclaimer of any warranty whatsoever. Makes no representation or warranties whatsoever as to the suitability, durability, fitness, use, merchantability, condition, quality, performance. The provider, that's us, accepts as is that leased box. Who would approve this? Who would not pay attention to this kind of language? In addition, there's no indemnification in the contract to protect the township from potential liability. Maybe more time should have been spent on the contract instead of on the photo op. I think it's reprehensible that the contract wasn't reviewed, but the outfits were reviewed for the photo op. Now let's talk about the signs that go with the baby box. So this is the sign at the baby box. It's a private company sign, has their website, has their phone number, has their registered trademark. That's what's up there. I asked 2 trustees here, where did the sign come from? And they both said they had no idea. That tells me just a complete negligence in due diligence. One of the things about this sign that I think is very disturbing is it has absolutely no information whatsoever on Ohio and local resources to help mothers in need that could be looking at surrendering a baby in a baby box. Did anybody think about that? I'm going to talk about it in a second here, but you know, one of the things you did here is by putting a private company sign up there, verbatim the way they provide it with their registered trademark on it, is I believe you've created a public forum for private speech on the side of the firehouse. And I'm going to come back to that because now I think other people could request to put signs on that firehouse. Here's my view, and I don't think this should be a controversial view for pro-life people. No mother should give up a baby having been kept ignorant of resources available to help them keep and raise their child if they so desire. No mother should be kept ignorant. Further, both parents, especially if listed on the birth certificate, should have a say before an untraceable, irrevocable surrender takes place. Did anybody think about that? Right now, baby box or not, any baby under 30 days in the state of Ohio can be surrendered anonymously at any hospital or to any policeman or any fireman, right now. How many people know that? Is it that we didn't have a baby box, or that we didn't do a good enough job communicating what the actual laws are around this area? I said I was going to get to the sign, proposing a sign. I'm going to propose this sign, and I'm willing to pay for it if necessary. And since you've created a public forum for private speech by putting private company signs on the side of the firehouse, I think I'm in pretty good standing to put this sign up there. This sign says this. I'm going to read the sign. Before surrendering your baby, help is available. Help Me Grow is an Ohio Department of Health program. I won't read all of it. There's a toll-free number, 24-hour toll-free number. There's an email address. There's an online resource for people who might want to keep their babies so they can get help if they're having issues financially, medically, etc. I put on here Clermont County Jobs and Family Services, another local number people could turn to. I also put on here the location of the hospital. How about that crazy idea? Clermont Mercy Hospital, which is another place that you could surrender a baby or get medical treatment for a baby if that was the thing that you were being confronted with. Down below that, I make reference to the voluntary medical history for safe havens, which I'm going to hold up here in a second. That is a specific form prescribed by the state of Ohio for voluntary surrenders of babies. It's not provided at the baby box. I don't know why. This is the product of rushing into something without checking the laws. Down at the bottom, it talks about some of the rules around surrendering a baby that aren't on the box, for example, that it has to be 30 days or under. So now let's get to the part that actually gets even more concerning to me than the sign. It's the law. The law. First thing is the staffing of the baby box. So the Ohio Administrative Code specifically says that at least one individual must be present and on duty in the facility at all times. Present and on duty in the facility at all times. Did anybody check the Ohio Administrative Code? Did Brody check the Ohio Administrative Code? Did anybody make sure that we were following the law? I think you guys all know by now, I went to the firehouse when nobody was there. I would have loved to play, I put about a 35-second clip of the video in the presentation, but I'm not allowed to put it up there. I think it would be telling. I don't think you want people at home to see it. It is completely irresponsible that the law is being violated by not having that somebody present at all times. Here's the second part of the law. This is the Ohio Revised Code. There's a lot of words here. This is just saying it has to do with both the forms. I'm going to show them here, that medical form and a pamphlet. And it says, if possible, make available to the parent. I don't know why people word stuff this way in the law. But obviously, maybe if you're a policeman or a fireman and somebody just handed you a baby on the street, you wouldn't have the form and pamphlet on hand. But I think at a baby box, we could provide the state-prescribed form and pamphlet. Don't you think so? Don't you think that that's a great case of it being possible to provide the state forms that the law says you're supposed to make available if possible? Here's the state brochure. You can't see it because I can't use those charts. People at home can't see it. But there's a little arrow I have on it. It has an arrow, I put the arrow on top of it, pointing to it providing the number for where somebody who's desperate can get help if they want to keep their baby. There's a whole program in our state called Help Me Grow. I'll admit I'm guilty. I didn't know about the program until I started looking into this baby box. Okay? This is the voluntary form, the state prescribed form for a medical surrender. This is the state prescribed form for a medical surrender. I put arrows on this because when you actually look at it, you realize it's criminal not to provide this form to somebody that's surrendering a baby. The sections on it, there's basics like the birth date. They don't reveal their identity. The parent doesn't on this. Then below it, it's diseases you had while pregnant or otherwise had. That might be something important to know. Diseases the mother had while pregnant or otherwise had. Drugs you took while you were pregnant. Family and health history. Circumstances at the birth of your baby, like it's premature, like it's what have you. Okay? And then finally, any medications you were taking while you were pregnant. To me, those would be pretty important things. I don't know, they're not required to fill out this form, but to not provide the form is criminal. So, after I found that there were times that the baby box wasn't staffed, the fire department was kind enough to provide me with a copy of the materials that are in the baby box. And it's a joke. The materials in the baby box amount to a few pages of Q&A dealing mostly with post-delivery issues a woman would have, a pamphlet promoting the Safe Haven Baby Box Company, and a very simplistic form that company has made up, which, by the way, after some of the issues with when you hired an administrator and questions about what's a public record, somebody should have thought, oh, hold on a second. The form says it's confidential, but is it really confidential, or is it a public record in Ohio? Somebody might have wanted to check that. But I put a couple lines that's in there. So it doesn't start with the assumption of, if you need help, we can get you help. It starts with the assumption of, thank you for making the choice to safely surrender your baby. There is a big difference. I hate to think of a young mother, her last image of a baby being a door slamming, and then realizing later that there were resources that could have helped her. Obviously, we don't want babies abandoned. Nobody in this room wants babies abandoned. But we also want people who are at a very desperate time in their lives to know about the resources that are available to help them, and not to maybe exploit them and encourage them to turn over a baby that maybe they'll look back on and regret that they didn't have that opportunity to know about those programs. Could you imagine finding out later that there was a 1-800 toll-free number for a Help Me Grow program to help people that were considering giving up their babies if they wanted to keep them? Can you imagine the feeling you would have if you found out about that after the fact? Hey, another thing in the baby box for somebody who's given up their baby, in the promotional brochure on Safe Haven Baby Box Company is the suggestions such as, have a fundraiser. This brings awareness and helps support us financially to reach more young women. That's what I mean by joke. Somebody approaching a baby box is getting out of it. I don't even know if they would notice the bag in there or that they're supposed to take it that has paperwork in it, but they get a promotional brochure telling them to have a fundraiser. I guess when you were doing the photo op, nobody bothered to take a look at what materials were in the baby box.
Mr. Hicks, you're at 15 minutes. If you could work on concluding your remarks. We've heard you. We will dedicate resources to close.
Mr. Logue, this is too important for your bullshit right now. Okay, I'm going to finish my remarks.
You are out of order, sir.
I provided the
You are out
charts
of
in
order.
advance and was told
We have
I could
heard you.
present
You've
them.
talked about photo ops. We have heard you. We will dedicate resources to this to move this forward.
Mr. Logue,
can you conclude your
can you
remarks?
admit that you made a mistake?
We have heard you. Can you?
I guess
conclude
you
your
can't.
remarks?
So let's keep going. This is Monica Kelsey in a video that kind of disturbed me recently.
Mr. Hicks, please direct your comments to the board. And can you
Mr.
conclude
Logue,
your remarks
please
here
calm
15 minutes
down.
in?
You need to learn how to take criticism as a man, okay, not to get frustrated. You also need to learn how to accept responsibility for tremendous mistakes, like not having done proper vetting on the baby box. This video is Monica Kelsey being upset about somebody wanting to get their baby back that got put in a baby box. And obviously, you don't want somebody that's not the right mother to get the baby back, okay?
Mr. Hicks,
But-
please direct your comments to the
But
board.
in the video, you're
Mr.
a
Hicks,
piece-
it's-
you're an
it's-
amazing
do not
guy.
be unreasonable.
So in the video, she shows absolutely no empathy for a situation of a mother who feels they made a mistake by putting a baby in a baby box. Her concern is she's literally, as she said, pissed off at the Department of Health because she doesn't feel they're doing enough to make sure the right mother's getting the baby back. Why is she even involved? Once the baby's been handed over to local officials, why is it her deal? So let's talk about what the minimum solutions are. The minimum solutions. I think one of the solutions I don't have here is taking some responsibility. rather than brushing off when you make mistakes.
Mr. Hicks, we have heard you. We take all public comments seriously. We will dedicate resources to looking into this further.
I'm going to finish my remarks, but thank you. Here are the 3 solutions that need to happen. Move the baby box to the police station where there is 24/7 staffing and dispatch can legally take possession. Firehouses, firemen have to go on runs. You probably can't staff a firehouse to keep an extra guy hanging around in case somebody drops off a baby. The police station, my read of the law, and asking some advice from other people I respect, is that a police station, a policeman can take a baby, but if it's brought to the facility of the law enforcement agency, then any employee of that agency can take a baby. The police station's a beautiful place because you're always going to have dispatchers there. If there ever comes a day there aren't dispatchers available at the police station, we know something really bad's going on in the township, I would think. Okay, so the box should be at the police station where there's 24/7 coverage. Because otherwise, you're going to have to add an extra fireman to the fire station to have somebody hang back to be compliant with the Ohio Administrative Code. Second thing, you need to add signage at the box that points to state and local resources who can help. Having a sign up there that only promotes a company, has their website, their registered trademark, et cetera, and has no connection to where you could get local or state help in Ohio is wrong. So those are the first 2 things. The third thing is you got to put the state forms in the box and not private company promotional material. The state forms need to be in that box. Also, you need to make clear what records are public records, okay, and what aren't, so we don't get into the kind of confusion that happened with the applications for township administrator with what was a public record and not. And by the way, back to the point of somebody not having, trying to reclaim a baby, what happens if a person wanting their baby back solely calls the safe haven baby box number? Because they were never told that once that baby comes across, there's a local number they should be calling because that's who takes possession of the baby. And my very last point, I said 6 things, this is number 6. Our culture of secrecy and control. I already talked about the lunacy of that I couldn't be allowed to use the screens there when I think this is a really important issue. Okay, it's the only time I've ever asked here to be able to have something projected on a screen. I think this is a really important issue. And I think the hardest thing sometimes to deal with for you guys is what happens when you make a mistake. Can you recognize we made a mistake, we rushed too fast? And can you say, you know what, I support the right of people to give presentations, like you have people come in and give presentations like Ready Cincinnati. Even more when it's people that maybe don't see eye to eye with us. Maybe those are the people we actually learn something from. And lastly, apparently none of the signage, the forms or contract were properly reviewed with a critical eye by our law director. Why not? Also, I requested policies and procedures on the baby box back on May 28th. Somehow something's changed here when in the olden days, if I requested something, the person I requested it from would just send it to me, and they were trusted and smart enough to know not to send me stuff that had personally identifying information or something like that. They knew what the boundaries were. But apparently now everything has to go through the law director. So he always gets a couple billable hours on any request somebody makes. So I ended up not getting, I got those materials sent to me at 4:45 today. 4:45 today. I wouldn't even, if it weren't for the courtesy of the fire department, I wouldn't even have the materials out of the box, because certainly I'd be afraid to open the door because I don't know what gets triggered. So I just want you to think and remember as I finish my remarks, this picture. And this is the price that happens when a photo op becomes more important than spending time reviewing the contract.
Mr. Hicks, we've heard you on that. We take all public comments seriously, and we'll dedicate resources and look into your concerns. Does that include your remarks? You're at 22
I'd like to
minutes.
know if any of the trustees other than Mr. Logue have any questions, or if anybody else has any questions. Let me ask a question, then I'll conclude my remarks. Raise your hand if you are a trustee and you feel that upon this information, that you would agree that maybe you rushed in too quick and there should have been more due diligence and review.
All right, Chris.
Okay?
Mr. Hicks.
Raise your
was that
hand.
games?
I'm sorry.
I said we're not going to play your
Does this
games.
conclude
Okay?
your remarks?
Raise your
Does this
hand if
conclude
you
your
think
remarks?
We're
that-
not going to raise our hands on anything.
I got this, Trustee
Okay.
Becker. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you think that.
Mr. Hicks, we've
that
heard you. We'll
there's
dedicate
changes that need to be
resources and
made.
look at this. It's appropriate for you to yield time back to the floor so we can move forward with the agenda and respect
I
everyone's
just
time
want
here
to, I
tonight.
just want to say,
Mr.
this is
Hicks, you're
something
out of
where
order. You're out
you
of
can,
order.
not one of you can sit up there and just say, I tell you how powerful it is to say to somebody like me in particular, you know what, we made a mistake.
Does
We're
that conclude your
sorry,
remarks?
we're going to fix it. But instead, you
Does that
double
conclude your
down
remarks?
on the attitude and the
purpose of
demeanor
public
that says,
participation
we
is
don't
for the board
respect
to hear
it.
from citizens, not to argue and debate. Does that conclude your remarks?
You seem to be the one arguing most
Does that
as I go
conclude your
through my
remarks?
charts. So
We
thank
have
you
heard
very
you.
much for the time to present.
have heard
Thank
you,
you,
and we
Mr.
will
Logue,
dedicate
for your,
resources.
when I sit down, I'll be prepared to hear any remarks you want to make while I'm not standing here. But thank you, guys.
All right, I got 7:01, gentlemen. We're going to continue on with our public comment at this time. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Yes, ma'am, please come forward to the podium.
Good evening.
If you could please state your name and address, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure, my name is Monica Kelsey. I am the founder and current CEO of Safe Haven Baby Boxes. I live in the city of Woodburn, Indiana, and Mr. Hicks is correct, it is 3 hours from here. Is that all I need to say first?
Yeah, thank you, Monica. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to speak during the public comments. I know that I'm not a registered resident here, but I thought it was very important for me to come after listening to what has been happening here in Union Township. And Safe Haven Baby Boxes is kind of being used as cannon fodder against the township, where I just don't see the issue. I do want to make a few comments about what Mr. Hicks has said and the material that he's given to you guys, because I've went through it very, very closely, and it's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. The contracts that are in here that he has referenced is not complete. He has given you a narrative that he wants you to understand based on what his agenda is. The contracts that are in here is not even Union Township's contract. So he's using a contract from a different location.
Mr. Hicks, you had your public comment time.
The part where he's saying that we are not giving women all their options. Most of you know that I was abandoned as an infant, that my birth mom abandoned me 2 hours after I was born. I learned empathy from her because I got to meet her when I was 37. The one thing that I do know is empathy for women, and the women are not ignorant. Women know resources and how to get them. They don't need a sign on the side of a building telling them to call the Department of Child Services, which who in their right mind would call the Department of Child Services if you have drugs in your system or you have a warrant for your arrest, which has happened for Indiana, where women have called us and said that they can't go to a hospital because of certain situations. We fill the gap. The Safe Haven law has been around for 20 years, where a woman can walk into any fire station or hospital and surrender a child, no questions asked. The problem is Mr. Hicks says that it's anonymous. It is not. Anonymous means nobody knows your skin color. Nobody knows whether you're a man or female. Nobody knows if your dad works for the fire department. Anonymous means no one sees you. The baby box allows that. The old law was confidential, where you had to hand a child to a person and hope that they didn't know you. The paperwork that is inside the box, I'm going to admit a mistake. The document that's in there is actually an old logo of ours, and Mr. Hicks stated that we are trademarked, and that is correct. And the document that is in that box is actually one of the old logos, so I'm not sure how you got it, but that needs to be replaced, and we have some here, and I will give it to the chief to put it in the box to make sure that it is replaced with the proper paperwork. the part about the documents that he put on the forms here, this 1-800 number for Help Me Grow, I have actually called that number. I call all of our hotlines across this country to make sure that they're doing their jobs, and the Department of Child Services does not do safe haven surrenders very often, so they're not educated on safe haven surrenders. We have had over 8,000 calls to that number that's on the outside of your box. Over 8,000 calls from women. 117 of those women was from the state of Ohio. We haven't had any babies in our boxes in Ohio, but we've had an 80% drop in abandonment since we launched baby boxes in Ohio. That's huge. That means women are calling us and we're giving them resources, not the boxes. In the document that he states where we thank a woman for surrendering, every time. Absolutely every time I will thank her because she could have thrown that baby in a dumpster, and she did not. And we should be thanking these parents for doing the right thing. Just because that's not something that someone else would do doesn't mean that we can judge someone for doing it. That might be all she has left to give. And if she can keep her child safe, we should thank her. Too many babies are being found in dumpsters right now, a baby every 3 days in America, and that's absolutely ridiculous in 2022. A baby was found in a dumpster in New Mexico. A baby was found in a dumpster in New Mexico. Baby was in the dumpster for 5 hours. 5 hours before it was found. That wasn't his narrative. He didn't want to say anything about abandonments in this country, so I'm going to enlighten you. 1 every 3 days. Indiana hasn't had an abandonment since we launched baby boxes. Ohio has dropped 80%. Arkansas has dropped 100%. We have not had a dead baby in the state of Arkansas since we launched baby boxes. So if we want to talk about stats, let's talk about these babies that aren't being placed in dumpsters anymore. The video that's on TikTok, and I appreciate you following me on TikTok, by the way, because I get money for being on TikTok. Our organization does. So thank you for following us. The Department of Child Services tried to give back a baby that was placed in my box, and they did not do a DNA test. Who would not stand up for a child and be their voice? And I was pissed off. I was pissed off because the Department of Child Services was giving back a baby to someone they did not know was the mother. And if we're not agreeing that that should be the first thing they should have done, then we're on a different level. I also want to bring up the fact about the administrative code. I heard Mr. Hicks pointing fingers at you guys the entire time, but let me just assure you that the problem was not yours. The problem was ours. I passed the law, I wrote the law in 2017 for Ohio. And in the Ohio code, it has what I wanted. But the administrative code was revised. The Ohio code does not match the administrative code. And I'm working on that now to correct it. That is not your fault, that is my fault. And I can't believe I've been doing this for 6 years and never caught it. So thank you, Mr. Hicks, for bringing that up, because this has just eliminated a huge problem that could be down the road. But I don't want the township to burden the cost of my mistake. Safe Haven Baby Boxes is willing to pay for someone to be at that box 24 hours a day in the fire station until I can correct the administrative code or get a letter from the Attorney General stating that he's okay with this until we can get back in front of the legislator. I am an organization of integrity, and I will do anything to protect women and children in this country. Shutting this box down right now, which is what Mr. Hicks' whole agenda is to shut this box down because he believes that a woman should carry a child and parent a child. And that's where we differ. But shutting this box down after we have went public and after we have done a press conference and done his photo ops that he says, some woman in Union Township could have been watching that day and could have said, you know what, this is one of my options, and I haven't made the final option yet, and she might still be pregnant and ready to deliver in a few weeks. You shut that box down, and she thinks it's still available. We could find a dead baby in Union Township, and I don't think anyone would be okay with that. So I am willing to put money from Safe Haven Baby Box to the township to ensure that that box stays open. And I hope that you guys will agree with me that shutting it down would be detrimental to the women and children of this community. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
It's powerful. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Monica, thank you very much. Appreciate your remarks. And thank you for the support of the women and children in our community. Thank you.
It's very helpful.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, I've got 7:10 on the clock now. Is there anyone else joining us tonight that would like to participate? Public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll continue to move forward. Gentlemen, department reports. Our Fire and Emergency Medical Service, Chief Stan Dimling.
Thank you, Mr. Logue. For the month of May, the department responded to 227 fire and service calls, 624 emergency medical responses. We had contact with 637 patients, and we transported 441 times to local hospitals. The department completed 1,311 hours of training, participated in 29 public education details. We had 138 hours of paramedic, EMT, doctor ride-along time with the paramedic units. We conducted 13 life safety inspections and completed 5 inspections with the building department. And if you don't mind, because the gentleman brought up about open burns, and in this time of the year, that's a big question, and it gets raised a lot, especially after the last windstorm that we just had go through. There's a lot of trees and brush. So there is no open burning permitted in Union Township. But open burning is actually regulated by the Southwest Division of the Ohio chapter of the Environmental Protection Agency. So if somebody wanted to get a permit, like if somebody is doing a control burn and they meet all the requirements of the EPA, that permit actually has to originate through the Southwest Ohio Division of the EPA. And with that, with his complaint, certainly if you call the fire department, we do go down and we enforce that and we make them extinguish the fire. But they also need to know, and he should have been advised of this, and if he didn't, I'll apologize for that. If you place a phone call to the EPA, they take this very seriously, and the fines for illegal open burning are substantial, like in excess of $10,000. I can tell you, if you open burn once and you just were ignorant of the law, nothing's going to happen. They're just going to warn you. If they get repeated offenses for somebody that's illegal at burning, especially if they're burning trash and putting pollutants in the air, that fine is upwards in the neighborhoods of $15,000. So, if you want to take care of a repeat offender, somebody that it's an ongoing that just made a mistake and they didn't learn their lesson, the Ohio EPA is the authoritative agent on open burning in the state of Ohio.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, how do you describe the difference between an open burn and I've got a campfire burning, or I'm burning 3 branches of honeysuckle.
So again, if you call us, call a non-emergency number, we'll send somebody down. And it's defined in the literature. You can have a recreational fire or a cooking fire. It's 2 foot by 2 foot by 3 foot. It's seasoned wood. There's nothing else in there other than seasoned firewood. You can't have anything else in it, and it's not going to be producing any kind of black smoke. You can't ignite that fire using any kind of ignitable liquid, gasoline, kerosene, diesel fuel, anything. But don't call me and you have a bonfire that's 20 feet by 20 feet and tell me you're cooking hot dogs. So again, there are very specific regulations. The EPA has a pamphlet that they put out that spells out distances from other properties you have to be to have a fire. And it also spells out the difference between cities, villages, and townships and burning regulations. And it answers that exact question as to, okay, if I want to have a recreational fire or a cooking fire, what are the specific requirements for me to? It has to be contained, it has to be attended, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole list of regulations, but it's a good question.
Thank you, Chief. Trustee Becker.
Chief, so on the open burn question, so I appreciate all this good information. I didn't know any of this. The township does not have the ability to find somebody, but the EPA can. Is that what I heard you say?
That is correct. We could actually, you could probably do a fine of possibly under the fire code for some kind of complaint in a violation of the fire code. That, it's going to be a very minor infringement, and it would have to go through the court system, and, it wouldn't carry any teeth. The fine comes from the EPA. It's absolute.
I got more?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Shifting gears on you here. So a member of the community contacted me, wanted to know if they could get a tour of the Water Tower Firehouse. So I didn't know you gave tours regularly, so help the public understand if they want to, if it's just an individual, group, whatever the situation is, and any firehouse they want to tour, they call the non-emergency number. How do they do that?
Yeah, if they call the non-emergency number that's listed for the fire department, which is the 528-4446 number, that's a non-emergency number to our administrative offices, and they can schedule a tour. We do that all the time. I mean, you can take your chances and stop by the firehouse. They may be out on a run, they may be out doing inspections, they may out be doing hydrants or public safety someplace. But if you call and schedule it, short of being out on an emergency detail, we put it on the daily activity calendar, and they will be there, and they'd be happy to give you a tour of the equipment in the firehouse and the firehouse itself, at any one of the fire stations.
And also citizens can stop by any firehouse and pick up batteries, smoke alarms, and CO detectors, assuming there's somebody there to, if they're not on the run, that they can get these things, and it's free to the residents.
Again, yeah, the 9-volt batteries, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and again, you can stop and ring the doorbell, and if they're there, they'd be happily give it to you. The only thing I would say is that, if you own an apartment building and you have 27 units, don't stop by and ask me for 27 smoke detectors and batteries, because you have to, required to have those in your building. But, if you're a resident of Union Township and you live in a, home or, and you need it, we've had situations where, especially with elderly residents of the township, that will actually come to your house, we'll deliver to your house and we'll install it. I mean, obviously, we have a billboard on every one of our vehicles that says smoke detectors and seatbelts saves lives, and we believe in that, and if it requires us bringing that to your house to give you a smoke detector or installing it, we will certainly do that.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Chief, I'll just make a question. The smoke alarms and detectors, a large majority of those have been donated. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have both. I mean,
Both, that's
there's
what I thought.
occasional, we've been successful in getting some donated through various agencies. We got a grant a while back for specifically carbon monoxide detectors through a grant through Firehouse Subs. So whenever possible, we use those resources. If we don't currently have an outside resource, then, we'll supply them. It's the taxpayers' money. It's their smoke detector, it's their batteries, it's their carbon monoxide detector.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. Thanks for all the hard work and diligent work that you and your team have done over the last month, and also out at Station 50 with the Safe Haven baby boxes. We really appreciate the support from the team there, and I recall often what you said as far as the line of work that fire and EMS are in, that this is a golden opportunity to be on that front end, to be able to take care of babies in need and support families. So happy to see that as far as the excitement that the team has around that as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chief. All right, at this time, gentlemen, move forward with Police Department, Chief Scott Gaviglia. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the month of May 2022, the Communications Center handled approximately 5,300 calls for service or police, fire, EMS, and administrative calls. Records Division processed 415 juvenile and adult court-related documents. Public Affairs, the Police Department held 2 child gun safety classes that were conducted here at the Civic Center, and we also conducted our semi-annual Women's Self-Defense class. Patrol side of things, we took 294 incident reports, investigated 114 traffic accidents, conducted 307 traffic stops with 126 citations and 220 warnings, conducted 564 field interviews, made 87 criminal arrests, 62 traffic arrests, and we served 132 warrants. The K-9 teams recovered 38.5 grams of marijuana, 4.5 grams of heroin, 10.5 grams of methamphetamine, and 20 prescription narcotic pills. Investigations to date has closed 137 cases. Training for May was approximately 289 hours. Fuel cost, is of course up a little bit, $13,000 with approximately 36,000 miles driven. And again, my thanks to the board and the community for the support of the Honor Guard. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Chief, gentlemen.
I have a question.
Yes.
Police Night Out, that's coming up when? Tell us about it.
It'll be the first week in August. It's one of the biggest events in the county. It's all paid for by donors. Each year it's gotten a little bigger. We took a little pause with COVID there. But it's a great opportunity for the community to come out and meet the police officers. We conduct demonstrations with all our gear. We invite other police departments from around the region. They bring their gear. And it's a great time for people to come out and just walk around and kind of meet people in a more social setting, which over the years I've really gotten to enjoy. This has been a priority of the police department for some time now. And we actually, Officer Seekbert does a great job with it, and it's kind of his baby at this point. All the food's provided, it's free. We've grown so big now, we have to offer a shuttle service here at the Civic Center to get people coming and going. Local churches come, we have great community resources. We should start to get that out. You should see it popping up on Facebook and other places here in the next week or so, sir.
Great, thank you. You got one more item?
Please.
So with the Uvalde, Texas shooting, it's been in the news, and as horrific as that was, logical question is, okay, if that happens here in Union Township, what can the residents expect?
Sure.
I mean, nobody wants a scene of a bunch of angry parents with shotguns standing out in the parking lot because the police aren't doing anything.
Right. And that is,
Chief, if I may,
please.
if I may add on to your concept and thought that was actually something I had as well. In further expansion of that, what steps can we continue to take to work towards hardening and working with our school resource officers that we provide for West Clermont to harden for West Clermont, but also go through kind of the more stress test of emergency response plan? I mean, I know that they've had a couple incidents that hit the news in the last 3 months, definitely concerns me, and I don't want our school resource officers to be not on the same page with the school, and you can only get that through going through those stress tests. Just, I'm going to give you an open opportunity with that, but I want to make sure that we're providing the adequate support that is needed, and know that I believe from this board's perspective, we're there to support, and back to Trustees Becker's question, I think is why he's directed that direction. So thank you for letting me jump in on that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Logue. Thank you, Mr. Becker. Thank you for allowing me the brief moment to speak about this. And policing's a little different right now. What a police officer did in Minnesota and what a police officers did not do in Texas has absolutely no bearing on the Union Township Police Department. We train and behave in a different fashion. However, you're right, Mr. Becker, it is a very fair and honest question to be answered by the citizens, and I'm happy to take that opportunity. I've been in policing now for 29 years, and when I started, it was sit, wait, and talk when you had those type of situations, right? If you don't recognize that acronym, right, that's the old acronym for SWAT, sit, wait, and talk, and that's what it was. Columbine changed all that. Immediately after Columbine, we shifted our training to something called quad training. Some of the older guys remember some of that quad training we went through, and that's where the first 4 officers from any jurisdiction, wherever they're coming from, would go in. We found out over time that still wasn't quick enough. So in Union Township, we train, first one goes, right? First one goes. We're trained, we train all the time with it. We're trained to ignore injured and dead people to go engage the shooter and attempt to neutralize the shooter. The board over the years, this board included, and thank you for allowing me to run the department in this manner. Thank you for allowing me to purchase the equipment that we need for this. Each patrol cars has patrol rifles. We're outfitted with higher body armor. We have ballistic vests. We have a ballistic shield. We have all the tools we need, we have all the training we need. In this event, that shooter will be neutralized and/or occupied before most of the community even knows what's going on, in my mind's eye. To your direct question, Mr. Logue, we train frequently with West Clermont. Lockdown drills, I still have a child in middle school. Lockdown drills are traumatic for everybody involved, so we try and use those a little bit with kid gloves, but we do have to train with them. We're always in communication with West Clermont School District. They're great partners. We, of course, would like to incorporate more more school resource officers, but that's a money issue. I get it. But we have to keep training through that. We have to keep training through the lockdowns. And I can assure the community that if that event happens here, each and every officer at Union Township would risk their life, right? First one in. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. You heard me say it before with the Honor Guard. Everything Union Township's a competition. Promotions, the bar to be hired at Union Township is the highest around. That doesn't always make me the most popular person in any room, right? But it's that way for a reason. When it's real, right, we'll be there and we'll be ready. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chief, just on that, I hated it for the students, but when we had that incident with that woman, and we had to lock down West Clermont, man, that was fast. You guys acted fast, and just a job well done, very much.
It was a great job by the surrounding jurisdictions, good communication, and it couldn't have went any better.
Yeah,
Thank you,
well
sir.
said. And then,
That was a great job.
second thing is the 2 child gun safety classes. I took both my daughters, my 12-year-old daughter and 7-year-old daughter there, and excellent course. Who's the officer that led that?
Was it Chad Lutson, sir?
It was,
Yes,
yeah, Chad, yeah. So, excellent job. Please tell him
I will.
I mean, he was very good at, I don't want to use the word dumbing down, but like relating to the children and got them involved, and he did really, really well, and and kept both my daughters engaged for an hour, which is incredibly difficult to do. So, but no, just appreciate you guys offering those classes very much. So, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, gentlemen, Service Department, Mr. Matthew Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Logue. In the Cemetery Division, from May 1st through the 31st, or May 15th, I'm sorry, through the 31st, 12 burials were performed, generating $6,100. 4 resident graves were purchased, generating $2,200. 1 resident grave was purchased for $1,000. 2 columbarium niches for $2,000. 1 scattering garden, generating $500. The total amount generated was $17,750.20. In the Roads Division, a total of 33 work orders were completed on 31 township roads. 228 potholes were repaired on 24 township roads, and trees were trimmed in the right-of-way on 8 township roads. In the Parks Division, staff provided setup and cleanup for the concerts at the Civic Center on 5/14, 5/28, and 6/4, and staff planted more than 1,100 flowers at the Civic Center and the Police Department, including a total of 500 New Guinean patients. And also, a total of 9 mutt stations with signage were installed at the township parks, and 2 new water fountains were installed at Veterans Park. Also, the existing signage that prohibited dogs has been removed as well. And I'm sure most of you, if you've been around, you've seen a lot of residents are walking their dogs in the parks now, too. And then also, just to conclude, paving has started, and they hope to have it complete within the next few weeks. And that concludes my report.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, so is there, some of the residents, overwhelmingly, the residents wanted to allow dogs in the parks. But there were a number of residents that had some valid concerns about this. Have any of those concerns come to fruition that you know of? And those concerns were things like dogs attacking other dogs, of course, poop problems, dogs just kind of running wild, and, people tripping over them, anything of that
No,
nature?
I haven't received any
good.
calls yet.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have one, trustee?
Yeah, 220 potholes. It's quite a bit in a 1-month time. Well done. Well done to your team. And then you said 9 signs were installed. Can you just let everyone know how many were at Veterans and how many were at Clupper?
So it's 4 and it's 4 at one park, 3 at another, 1 at another. So it's 1 at Mount Carmel. I think it's 3 at Veterans and 4 at Klepper. That's what it is.
Perfect. Appreciate you very much. You did that very quickly, Ms. Chiller, you and your team, so very much, very appreciate you.
Not a problem.
Thanks, Mr. Taylor. I've got a quick comment and a question, not to put you on the spot with the question, but comment is a gentleman that had reached out about Brandonmore subdivision. He was very happy talking about the subdivision in need of repair, many potholes, someone's gonna get hurt. Very happy that we were able to coordinate, respond to it in 2 minutes of him submitting his message on that. So, so again, thank you for that support. That I knew you're right on top of it. I think that was even over the holiday weekend. So, so I know that that's good. He's referencing that that's a street area that hasn't received new payment in 30 plus years that he's lived there. So I know we've still got a lot on the list to be able to continue to progress through. But thank you so much for that close fire support. And as we talk about the parks, I was out walking through Veterans Park and admiring the swans that are there. And my memory's getting rough on if you can recall, what was the cost of our swans? Roughly?
We've had 2 different versions. I think the original swans, and I could be mistaken, but I want to say they were about $1,500 apiece.
$1,500 apiece for the swans?
But this is going back a few years. And then we've had some that were less than that.
Yeah.
So,
And that ramp is there for the swans, correct?
Yes.
So we've got a swan ramp into.
and the original ones, before we got the ramp in there, they would jump down the sewer grate, walk under the road, and come out the other side.
Okay.
So.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we've since added the ramp.
And I know geese are the difficult issue. That's the intent of having the swans there.
To try
I
and
believe,
run them
right?
off.
But the geese just conglomerate around shelter B right there. It's just,
It's a challenge.
I know it's a challenge, so. I just looking for information on that, what we've invested into the swans to try to mitigate the geese. But the geese, I mean, it's a gang of geese.
I was just there this past week with my kiddos, and I saw like 10 baby Canadian goose, made me really excited about that.
All the baby.
Yeah.
They're being sarcastic.
If you go to the cemetery, there's a little bit less because I guess the mother has hatched. It was 5 eggs. I think we're down to 2 now. And the male runs the geese off because they're very protective. So it's much better in,
The swans
at the Mount Moriah Cemetery.
yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Not a problem, sir.
Planning and zoning, gentlemen, Mr. Craig Flouty.
Thank you, Mr. Logue. First, we'll start out with the inspections and violations that occurred during the month of May. There were 57 inspections, 19 complaints filed, 9 unfound complaints, 17 warning citations, along with 3 15-day non-compliance letters. In addition, there were 8 resolved with and without action, 378 legal signs removed, 12 miscellaneous issues handled, 28 violations, the monthly total, along with 11 re-inspections of violations. The May 2022 permit activity, there were 5 commercial permits issued, 3 change of uses, 10 signs, 14 single-family dwellings issued, 3 additions, 6 decks, 3 accessory buildings, and 13 pools and fences, for a monthly total of 57 permits, and a total revenue of $11,573. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Flouty. Gentlemen?
Mr. Flouty, you, give us an update on, I guess, two items. There's an Outback Steakhouse that
Yes, sir.
allegedly is gonna be moving into where the old Starbucks, used to be. Give us an update on that, as well as, Take 5 oil change.
Yeah.
When they're gonna demolish that old Wendy's on the corner of 9 Mile and Ohio Pike.
Yep, so I reached out to Outback. They've secured the zoning permits from the township here, and they're finishing up the permits with the county and then securing their contractors to start. So they don't have a set date yet, but everything's in motion to continue that build there.
Are they
And
gonna
then
raise that current building or do
Yes.
something new?
The Outback where that two-tenant building sits, it was an old Starbucks and a Blockbuster, I believe. That'll be raised, and then a new structure will be built with new parking and landscaping and all that fun stuff. The same will be with the Take 5. Boyle, the old Wendy's, will be raised, and then I reached out to them. They have the permits lined up to submit to us this week. We don't do demolition permits. They get those through the county, but they said they were gonna reach out and secure that, you know, get the building down as fast as possible would be beneficial. And then, just the progress to get the date targeted down again with, you know, the market and just securing, you know, contractors to get that building built. But for both of them, they're finalizing, getting ready to start their permit process, and then get started here soon. I know definitely Take 5 Oil's ready to get rolling on that. They're pretty excited about the
Thank you.
project there.
Mr. Dills?
Thank you, that's all I got.
Yeah, Mr. Flaherty, looks like total revenue is higher, much higher again this year than the prior year revenue, so that's a great sign, even with the strong rebound we had last year after the
Right.
COVID time. So that's great to continue to see that strong permit activity. And this may be a question or just a comment that I passed towards Ms. Ayers as well, but again, with the illegal signs being removed, 378, you know, so 1,554 so far this year. I don't know if there's any, obviously there's signs out there that you can contact the businesses that are putting them out. I don't know what's repetitive signs that are going back out. But I don't know if there's any, if it's with the Ohio Revised Code or what type of recourse that there could be as far as any type of cover the cost of our removal to those vendors that continue to put signs up. So not looking for an answer, but just putting the comment out there for something to research, take a look at moving forward. So, thank you, Mr. Flaherty.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, on to our administration report from Ms. Susan Ayers.
Thank you, gentlemen. Most of my comments this evening are related to different resolutions, so I will hold most of them and keep this very brief. Just wanted to bring a few things to your attention. The open checkbook is up to date through, I believe, the end of April at this point. The farmer's market has started on every Friday. I have been out of town, so I haven't had a chance to join yet, but I'm looking forward to joining, and it sounds like everything's been going really well. So thank you to Brenda for working on that. I think everything's been going really well. The online permitting is still under work. I don't know whether, Mr. Flott, if you could provide a quick update on that as well.
So we have everything in place to go live. We're just finalizing going through the payment portal to get all the financial tools in place that we can accept online payments. So we're ready to go live. Just gotta cross the Ts and dot the Is on the banking portion.
Perfect. Thank you for that. You had seen recently I had opened up a position for a development director. I'm pleased to say that application period just closed. I've started to set some interviews with people, and I hope to bring somebody to you to July to consider appointing. But been really pleased with that response. I appreciate everyone who applied. I wanted to again remind that we are working on updating the policies and procedures manuals for the township. If there is anything you'd like to provide for input, I'd be happy to take that at this time. And we will work to present that a little later in the summer. The former Glen Estee property did close this month. We are working with the developers and the county to address some of the sewer issues, the access issues, but they are actively working on pursuing that and getting started. So we look forward to working with them to get that moving forward. Wanted to let the board know and also the public, we received notice from the state representatives that in the most recent state capital budget allocation, the bill was passed and soon to be signed by the governor, including $122,000 of an award to Union Township to fund partially the development of pickleball courts and amenities at Klepper Park. So we're really excited about that and working through the rest of the funding that'll be needed for that. And we look forward to bringing that amenity forward. And thank you to our representatives for pushing that forward for us. Mr. Taylor referenced the signs have been changed out for the new dog park regulations. What we have not put in place yet is the what I would call dog runs, or the designated areas for letting dogs off leash. The reason for that has actually been working to reach out to local community groups about potentially securing some funding and sponsorship for those parks. So I just wanted to let you know we are continuing with that. The signage has been changed to allow dogs to be walked and on leash, but we're working on trying to secure some funding to help pay for the additional amenities, and we'll keep working on that. I've received some interest from local community groups that we're excited about. Wanted to bring up, finally, the township has joined the Cincinnati Center for Local Government. If you're not familiar with the Center for Local Government, their goal effectively works as a consortium for local government entities. They indicate their goal is to improve public services delivery by cities and townships and villages in greater Cincinnati with the information exchange, cost reduction, and shared services. What this gets us is increased access to collaboration, some potential for buying collaboratives that may help lower our costs. Also, they have an extensive training network set up for elected officials, some of our employees, as well as resources that we can use to tap into what the best practices are in the area. I've done some work with them in the past. We are the area's 60th member, so this is not a new concept. City of Milford, City of Loveland, Pierce Township, and Miami Township are all members around this area. So I think it's going to be a great resource for us as a staff as well as the community to help access some of those resources and really promote collaboration. That is all I have at this time outside of what we're considering for resolutions.
Gentlemen?
Sarah's, good job. Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about the farmer's market that you mentioned. I'm really enjoying that.
Good.
I've been there every week, and it seems to be getting more and more popular every week. And, yeah, I just, kudos to Brenda for putting all this together. And,
Absolutely.
I think it's been awesome. It seems to be very popular and growing in popularity. I'm getting a lot of feedback on social media, people reaching out, wanting to be vendors. I refer everybody to Brenda. She's taking care of it, and it's just going very, very well.
Yes, I'm excited. I'll be there on Friday.
That's it.
Yeah, Ms. Ayers, thank you. One brief comment as far as, with any questions that arose about the operation of the baby box, what dedicated resources have you taken a look at for looking at that discrepancy with the Ohio Administrative Code?
Sure. I've been working with Mr. Conover already. Today, we have submitted a request to the State Attorney General's office for an opinion on the interplay between the revised code and the administrative code. I think everyone on this board's goal and in this community has been to do this correctly and do it well. And so we want to make sure that we're taking the moment to get the correct advice, get the correct information out there, and we will follow what is correct and the right way to handle it. Mr. Conover is also going to be reaching out to the General Counsel's Office for the State Department of Health because they are the prolification of the administrative code in this area and working to make sure we understand their interpretation as well. So I think it's important to take a look at that, make sure we have the correct information, and then do what the experts tell us to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I think as you would identify that, it's the interpretation of the governing authority, the Ohio Department of Health. How do they actually interpret it? Because until you actually have something in hand, there's no final ruling of what's the interpretation of what may be a discrepancy or not. So, okay. All right, thank you very much. Glen Essie property closed during this month. Thank you again on the timeliness with that and getting that right up. I know that Friday evening up to the office where it needed to be so that the teams could get to work on it, be ready to go on Monday. And then also thank you for your close fire support with the capital budget, working with the lobbyist and working with Representative Gene Schmidt on getting that letter all put together to really give the final support. And again, the Center for Local Government, I've been strongly interested in that for the township for 2 years now, so thank you, that's great. I'm happy to hear that and look forward to what we learn and what pros and cons that may come out of it. So thanks for exploring that, taking those steps forward. And yeah, without saying more on the farmers market and how successful that is, just, Brenda's watching, thank you. We really appreciate it. She's done a lot of great work with that, and all those vendors know her so well, and it's just exciting. You feel the energy there, so it's great. Thanks for the township. So, all right. Gentlemen, at this time, we'll continue with our agenda. So we have a public hearing tonight. Mr. Flotty, if you could introduce zoning case 3-22- Oscar Overlay District Plan Approval.
Yes, sir. The applicant is Heather Phoenix, and this property is located at 1005 State Route 125. The applicant has submitted an application requesting overlay district plan approval from the Union Township Board of Trustees for one parcel. The applicant is seeking relief from sections 602, 660 through 664, and 1050 through 1071 of the Union Township zoning resolution in order to reestablish residential use in an existing home on a property zoned B1 business. The applicant has previously been approved to run the pet grooming business out of the adjacent building on the property. Now the applicant intends to live in the existing home, creating a mixed-use property. The subject property is located at the corner of State Route 125 and Crescent Drive in the Ohio Pike corridor. Some background information: the applicant has sought previous overlay approvals in the past for the pet grooming business located in the additional structure on the property, which is accessed off of State Route 125. With the approval of the previous overlay cases, it created the zoning and use categories for the particular property to remain B1 business. Since that time, the business has implemented parking, pavement, and signage. With the property being in B1 business use, the residential use portion of the property is no longer valid for the existing home. The applicant now wishes to retain and continue to run the existing dog grooming business while living out of the existing home, creating the mixed-use property. A review of this proposal indicates that the proposed request is consistent with the corridor recommendations of the adopted land use plan, as well as the overlay district regulations. This particular property is positioned for this type of development as the home has retained its residential characteristics through the years. The reestablishment of the residential use on the B1 business property would have little effect to the surrounding area, as the owner is wishing to upgrade the home and continuing the business. There should be minimal increase in traffic, as the business portion of the property is not set to change, and the applicant would no longer be driving to and from work. The applicant intends to improve the property as they will be living there, and has included a proposal to include the freestanding garage on site to help keep their personal vehicle out of the weather. Overall, the applicant has requested to make use of the whole property by bringing the existing residents back into residential use while operating a pet grooming service out of the existing business on the property. The action required tonight is in accordance with Section 1310 of the zoning resolution that the Board of Trustees is to enter into a motion to approve, modify, or deny the focus area district application consisting of requests to allow for mixed-use development with the reestablishment of residential use on B1 business property as submitted, and with any further modifications as approved by the Board of Trustees. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. At this time, is there anyone here to speak as a proponent on this case? Yes, ma'am. Come on. Yep, sorry. I didn't see your motion. Thank you. Come on up. Thank you. Now, this is a public hearing, so I'd have to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Would you please give your name and address for the record? Thank you.
My name is Heather Phoenix. My address is 3902 Magnolia Drive, Amelia, 45102.
Thank you. All right, floor is yours.
I'm just here if there's any questions to the overlay.
Okay. Thank you. Gentlemen? Yes.
I don't have a question, just a comment. So I drove around the area up and down Crescent and looked at it, and I really like your color pattern of the building.
Oh, thank you.
I just think it's real cute.
Thank you, thank you.
Just want to pass that on. That's it.
Ms. Phoenix, how was business?
Honestly, it after COVID hit hard.
Yeah.
And we were going from anywhere from 10 to 20 dogs a day.
Wow.
And then nothing for a good 6 months, because we shut down with the ordinance and decided that the safety of the people were more important. And then it's rough now. It's 5 to 10 dogs a week now. We're just starting to pick up with the weather getting hot, but that's also the reason why I'm downsizing my other house, selling, and hoping to move into a smaller home and cut down on gas going back and forth
Yes,
to work.
ma'am, I get it,
Yeah.
I get it. Make sure to go on our township website, shoot me an email, you got yourself a new customer. And, there's definitely a high demand for it. I'm not telling you what to do with your business, but I see it out on social media all the time. Does anybody know pet grooming, dog
Well,
grooming?
because we're hot, right now, it's seasonal.
So,
And,
yeah.
that's, we can't, it's feast or famine.
But I have no problem with you, wanting to live in the residence. I get it. You know, I'm jealous. Gas is $5, going to be $6 a gallon, and you live at the place where you work. Good for you.
I
So,
can be more accommodating to the clients, too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good for you. Appreciate you coming here. Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yes, ma'am, you got it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I have no further questions, just thank you.
That is it.
Appreciate
You're
you.
good.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am, you got it.
At this time, is there any opponent? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, open it to board comments. Gentlemen?
I have no objection.
All good?
Gentlemen, at this time, then, we are being asked to seek a motion in accordance with section 1310 of the zoning resolution, to either enter a motion to approve, modify, or deny the focus area overlay district, application consistent with the request to allow for mixed-use development with establishment of residential use on B1 business property as submitted, and there's no further modifications that we've heard or that we've discussed. So we're seeking that motion to either approve, modify, or deny.
Make the motion for zoning case number 3-22-0, overlay district plan approval, for it to be approved with no modifications as given.
And I second that motion.
Hearing no further discussion, gentlemen, Mr. Campbell, call the roll.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good luck, Ms. Phoenix.
It carries. Yep, congratulations.
Good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
No worries. You're good. Good luck
Thank
with
you. All right, gentlemen, moving forward, any old business this evening?
I do not have any.
Okay. We'll move forward to new business at the time. Anyone have new business, or hold it to the end? Okay. Then we've got item alpha, approval of payments. We're seeking a motion to approve payments as prepared by Mr. Campbell, our fiscal officer. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion, gentlemen?
No, sir.
Mr. Campbell, call the roll.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item Bravo, approval of monthly financial report. Gentlemen, we're seeking a motion to approve monthly financial report as prepared by Mr. Campbell, fiscal officer.
So moved?
Second.
No discussion. Mr. Campbell, call the roll.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item Charlie, approval of purchase orders. This is the seeking a motion for approval of purchase orders exceeding 10,000 as recommended by Ms. Susan Ayers, Township Administrator. Ms. Ayers, if you would, introduce the requisition list.
Yeah, sure. We do have a few for your consideration this evening. Let's go through these in order. First being for Total Quality Logistics for $33,611.27 for Economic Development Agreement reimbursement for April 2022. To Brooker and Eckler for $50,000 for miscellaneous ongoing legal fees. Second to Total Quality Logistics for Economic Development Agreement May reimbursement from 2022, $36,510.41. $175,000 to Beechmont Ford for the purchase of 5 police vehicles. $450,000 to Penn Care Incorporated for the purchases of 2 ambulances. $28,000 to Bethesda Healthcare for annual physicals. $41,315.12 to Stryker Sales Corporation for cardiac monitor and preventative maintenance on 15 units. $24,000 to MPC Investment for fuel for apparatus and vehicles. $30,603.88 to Motorola Solutions for a dispatch console service agreement. $20,000 to FleetCor Technologies for estimated fuel usage. $38,194.64 to ITC Technology Team for annual license and support for alert software. $12,495.35 to Mobilecom for camera repairs, replacement, police department, and service department. $235,000 to Rush Truck Center of Ohio for a dump truck. $145,000 to Zimmer Tractor Incorporated for a Kubota roadside mower. $45,000 to Bobcat Enterprises Incorporated for a T4 Bobcat compact truck loader.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Gentlemen, do you have any specific comments?
Do.
Please, Trustee
Go ahead,
Becker.
go ahead.
Yeah, I got 4 items I wanted to talk about. So, the first one is for Chief Caviglia. 5 police vehicles, the 2022 Ford Explorer for $175,000. My question is, and I've kind of mentioned this before, and it's still stuck in my head that this might be, emphasis on might be, a good idea, I just don't know. But there is available now the F-150 Lightning Pro. It's like $40,000. And they're big and they're fast. Seems to me that would be a candidate for a police car. Now, maybe the case is, and I don't know, I just need somebody to tell me this, I guess. You know, they're either, the recharging speed is not adequate. So for example, I think it might take 8 hours on just a standard 220 line to recharge this thing. You can't leave a car sitting for 8 hours plugged in. That may be the answer, I don't know. You know, but your fueling cost is a whole lot less, your maintenance cost is a whole lot less. And I don't know that the upfront cost, being these things are only about $40,000 of a you know, base vehicle is a whole lot more than what you'd be paying for a Ford Explorer. Any thoughts on any of that?
Sure, yes, thank you, sir, I appreciate the opportunity. You had mentioned electric vehicles a couple months ago, and I'd seen them at police chief conferences before COVID hit. I'll just take a couple moments here. The price we get the Explorers for on the state bid list, the F-150 Lightnings haven't hit the state bid list, and you're right, the minimum basic cost is $40,000, but like any car maker, they only make about, 4% of those. The midline for what we would need would be $53,000. Because we get the midline Explorers, right, with the electric locks and all the other features that go in it. The other thing the F-150 Lightnings don't have is they're not pursuit rated. And I won't get into a big conversation with that. Pursuit rated doesn't mean what you think it means. It doesn't mean, to go chase people. That's not what it means. Pursuit rated means it can travel at faster distances for longer periods of time, added suspensions, added brakes, added transmissions, and things of those natures. Police departments that are using electric vehicles now, they're using vehicles like the F-150 Lightning to support services vehicle. We actually were going to look at buying one, except we can't get them to take over our crime scene. We currently have that old retrofitted ambulance. I was going to come to the board and suggest that, but there were none available. To your direct point, metro cities and smaller areas do have the little hybrids, but their patrol areas are a couple blocks, or they're a small community. Our officers will travel in excess of 100 miles a night. We'll just wear those cars out. However, something that might interest you that's in the works is something called the Ford Mach-E. It was just passed by the Michigan State Patrol, and they're kind of the car people of the police world, right? And it was just passed. It passed their stress test, and it passed pursuit rated. Probably not to 2024 is when you'll start to see this. Now, the only issue is, again, it's a fusion based, right? And I speak from experience of even trying to put willing people in the back seat of a police car handcuffed. A fusion's not a great plan. When you go to put an unwilling person in the back of a fusion, it's an impossible plan. So I think there are some applications forward, Mr. Becker. I don't think any of those are really within reach. I will make the promise that we will look, when we offer support services vehicles, I will look at all things, because it is the wave of the future, Mr. Becker. Whether that wave hits you and I, who knows. But I did take your suggestion. I did do some research, and I think that's where we are right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, number 2 on my list. For the fire chief, Chief Dimling, the ambulances for $450,000. What are those?
Those are the smaller ambulance. That's the ambulance on an E450 chassis gasoline. Just to kind of put those in perspective. Currently today, if I was to order an ambulance, the lead time on those is over 700 days. What these are 2 ambulances that are already on the production line. They were put on the line as demo units. And if I could just give you a short trip down history here. End of last year, we snagged 2 demo ambulances that were being made as demonstrators for sales people off the line as brand new units, and got them in a matter of months. These are the same thing. When we snag those two, they put two more on the production line right away to try and get those dealers their demos. Well, our attempt here is to snag those two. In dollars, those are $176,800 apiece. There are communities right around us that are paying in excess of $350,000 per vehicle. So these are brand-new units. We'll pick them up right at the factory, $176,800 apiece.
It
for
says
two of them.
450,000.
Correct. So
Two of them.
that's correct. So 176,800 is your basic unit.
Okay.
We added additional money on there because once we get those units, they don't come with cot mounts.
Okay,
They
all
don't
right.
come with cots. So
Good answer.
we've put in each of our units, these will be the last ones that don't have power load systems and power cots. And we can defer to Matt Taylor and talk about workers' comp and back injuries and the weight of patients today versus 10 years ago, and the power cots. And the workers' comp has bought some of those for us in the past just because of saving backs. But that money you see, the additional money you see on that PO is for 2 load systems and 2 power cots to go in the ambulances.
Okay, so it's an opportunity, you're getting a good price because they're demos. What are these going to be replacing? Or are they adding?
No, they'll be replacing 2 2012 ambulances.
What happened to those? They get auctioned off, or?
Yeah, they'll be,
Okay.
or we can give the police department for a crime scene unit. They're not
Okay.
electric.
Thank you.
But no.
And my last two are for Mr. Taylor. The international dump truck for $235,000, what is that, and what is that replacing?
That is a 2023 international dump truck. It says 7,400. So it is.
Is that like for salt,
Yeah,
salting
snow
roads?
removal. Snow removal, it is.
So it's a snowplow?
Yes.
Okay.
So it comes with a fully upfitted, so is kind of follow Chief Dimling's lead. We're 12 to 15 months lead time on anything we order as far as a full-size dump truck. Previously or earlier this year, we had ordered one, obviously, the board's consideration. So to order another one, this will replace 2. We have 2 2000s, which I believe a few of the board members have seen them. They look like Swiss cheese. So
Seen 'em.
they're regular steel beds, so we went to stainless steel, air brakes. They'll last quite a bit longer. So
Okay, great. Then, so how about the Kabuto roadside mower for $145,000? Is that replacing something, or is this new equipment?
it's replacing and new. We don't have one right now.
Okay.
So I have to beg, plead, borrow anybody that will let me use it when we can.
I heard from a resident that in lack of having, or in lieu of having a mower, that the services department will spray herbicide.
Sometimes we do. We do some
weeds.
roadside spraying with
Yes.
some weeds. It's not as attractive, but it is effective.
So with this mower, then, you
We'll
won't
be
need
able
to be
to do
doing that?
roadside mowing. We'll be able to mow up higher. It mows
Okay.
17 feet in the air, so whereas we don't have that capability right now.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Mr. Dills? Yeah, for both chiefs over there, Chief Caviglia, five cruisers, no problem, but when are we expecting to have our next big expense to be replacing the next set of vehicles?
So.
Just a ballpark, I'm
Sure.
not gonna hold your feet to the fire.
Sure. And thank you for bringing that up. When you order vehicles, right, there's a few ways to do it. The way it's been done previously, there's a negotiation of how many vehicles are bought each year. Other departments lease, other departments buy. It's been our experience, we'll drive them till we can't drive them anymore at about 130 or 140,000. On average, we're gonna need 4 to 6 vehicles a year. And I recognize that sounds strange, but it sure beats buying 15 every 3. There's some, you could work it out both ways. That's kind of been my experience. But each year I'll come to the board for between 4 and 6 police vehicles. As far as other expenses, the only thing you're going to see from me in the near future will be, we have 9 air conditioning units at the PD, some of which are older than some of my patrol people. So we're going to have to work on some of that. And there's always money and upgrades tied into communications and technology.
Fair enough. And then Chief Donnelly, same question. So we're buying two ambulances. When are we expecting to make our next purchase as well?
So similarly to the police department, with the ambulances, we've been playing catch-up because multiple years we skipped purchasing any ambulance. So with the purchase of these two, historically, we've tried to run those ambulances 5 years frontline, 5 years reserve status or backup status. With the purchase of these two and getting rid of the two medium-duty 2012s, they'll all be within that 10-year window. So if we, and we've had discussions with Susan, I know that we've had talks about, capital funds, that we set these funds aside, but if we purchase one unit ambulance a year, that keeps our fleet where we believe we need to be. With fire trucks, we have, for many, many years, purchased new, and when I say new to us, that we have found gently used fire trucks that have been very successful with low mileage. And so the fleet, we've made major strides in doing that. We just took delivery this week of a purchase from Sanford, Florida, on a 100-foot aerial platform. That's a 2012 that's replacing a 1990 110-foot aerial truck, and it's a night and day difference. So it'll take us a couple months to get it in service. So to answer your question, as far as the fleet goes, our oldest vehicles that will be left in the fleet with these upgrades is we'll have an engine that's a 2000, and we'll have a aerial truck that's a 1998. So those would be the next two vehicles that we'd be looking to purchase. And again, we've been unbelievably successful in finding new to us equipment that will last us for 10 to 15 years. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's where we're at with it.
You can't make the 1998 last longer, Chief?
If we had to have a license plate, they would have historical vehicle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So.
Ms. Chiller, so this mower, just so everyone knows, you have to borrow, Union Township, the largest township in our county, has to borrow a mower from Pierce Township, from Anderson Township, to make this happen. This purchase should have been done a long time ago, so I have no problem getting it done, and it's kind of embarrassing that we have to go and cherry pick other townships to take care of our residents. So hopefully this mower is here for a long, long, long time, and we get lots of use out of it, which I'm sure we will. So that's all I got, Mr. Logan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll be very brief. You both hit on the same subject requisitions that I was looking at as well. Same comments or variation of, so I'll just add what's new to that. So, and Ms. Ayers, I think this directly lines up with when we talk about the multiple years of having skipped plans for capital budgeting, and it goes hand in hand with policy updates so that we can work towards passing something that will, no matter who's here in the future, can be accountable to having a capital budget and a depreciation fund in place. And with that, I would say the planning goes in. So if the chiefs, they can plan for life cycle maintenance. I come from an aviation industry. You plan for those things. You know what you're going to wear and what you're going to tear and what you need to replace when you need to. It goes for both police and fire. And Mr. Dills and Mr. Becker, you right on top of it with the roadside mower. Having to borrow it from other townships, and grass grows at the same time. Where are we stuck? Where are we left? And what can you do for, being able to cut 17 feet in the air? I mean, Klepper Park's beautiful. There's a lot more beauty on cover if you're able to cut some more of those areas that are just overgrown. So that's, that's exciting opportunity to be able to bring to the service department. I'm sure I've talked with your team. I know they're all excited about the opportunity to be able to have their own mower. And that's a multi-purpose tool, so that we're able to get a little bit more done with. It's not just a simple boom mower and that's it. So it replaces and adds that new capability. And then also, again, seeing the rusted out snow trucks and that's an issue. Same thing. So, Ms. Ayers, I know you'll be working towards a depreciation fund or however you want to kind of outline budgeting. If you have anything to add that now, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to add now, and then I had some other comments planned when we get to Resolution 25. I think budgeting is hard, and I think in the past, we have done, as a township, some allocation for capital budgets, some years not for others. But I think, when we face reality, we know we are going to need new ambulances at a regular interval. We know we're gonna need new police cars. We know we're gonna need new equipment. And so I would like to strive for, and one of the things I hope you will find when we present a new budget for next year is to say, let's talk about allocating for those expenses on an annual basis. It may not be the whole amount, it may not be everything, but to start to say, we acknowledge we are going to need certain things every year, or at least on a regular basis, and being able to put some money into a budget to be very transparent, to say, hey, look, we know we are going to need capital money and we're gonna allocate some money towards that. It'll help provide, it'll help prevent us from having to come back and ask for these large expenditures all at one time, and be able to plan and prepare for those that we know are going to have to happen.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. It lets our directors and chiefs and their teams stay focused on the real work and getting us as a barrier to entry, out of the way. Let's not be a speed bump, let's not be a barrier. So obviously have the checks and balances appropriate with it to approve something, but that's what you put the plan in place for. So, all right. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for your time and comments, and with no further discussion, we're seeking it. We've got the motion. We have the introduction of it. We do need a motion for approval of the purchase orders.
So moved?
Second?
No further discussion. Mr. Campbell, call the roll.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, John, moving along, item Delta, approval of resolutions. We've got item 1, resolution 2022-25, American Rescue Plan Act funds resolution. Ms. Ayers, would you like to introduce that?
Yeah, this goes along with what we were just discussing about these capital purchases. As the board's well aware, the federal government has passed along extensive local government relief funds. The township did receive an allocation of that. We did spend some money previously on breathing apparatus for the fire department, but have not otherwise spent that money. It is one-time funds that come in from the federal government. We're asking under this resolution to help utilize some of those American Rescue Plan Act funds that were allocated to the township to pay for these capital expenses, so the fire trucks, the ambulances, the pieces of equipment to the service department, to help catch us up on these capital needs that I think we can all agree have been a long time coming, but do it in a way that does not further burden the general fund, and then our budgets are not blown by trying to catch up on these expenses. I hate having to come and ask for these big allocations, but the idea here, and when we tie it with the idea of strategic planning, would be we use these one-time funds to get caught up, meet our capital needs, and then as we look forward to budgeting, we budget some dollars for capital expenses, depreciation funds and the like, so that we don't have to come back to you again for these large allocations, and it's something that is more planned for on an annual basis to the extent we're able to do so. Sorry, and I should also add, I apologize, there will still be money remaining. I believe it's about $3 million that'll be remaining in the allocation for these funds. I'd like to get this out of the way, and then we're gonna start having some discussions about how we want to plan to strategically use the remaining of those funds, because I don't think we've gotten to that at this point, and to be able to decide how we really want to best utilize that for the community.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Gentlemen, do we have a motion to approve resolution 2022-25?
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question. So these ARPA funds, we have to, this is a question, we have to have those all spent, use it or lose it by the end of '24?
I apologize. It is either utilized by the end of 2024 or it is allocated by the end of 2024. I don't know 100%.
That's,
Yeah.
okay,
It's spent or allocated, I believe.
all right, thank you.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? All right. Call a roll, Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item 2, resolution 2022-26, undivided local government fund. Ms. Ayers, if you would.
Yes.
Introduce.
In the state budget every year, there is an allocation made to counties that we call a local government fund. The counties have the ability to distribute that to local governments in their jurisdiction. The state code does set up a standard distribution, but then the counties have the ability to effectively decide some other way to distribute it. That has typically been done through some agreements with local governments. I believe previously we were working on an agreement that was passed 2 or 3 years ago. And there was some discussion at the Clermont County Township Association and the group of local governments about there perhaps being a different or better way, more equitable, to distribute those funds. So what you have before you tonight represents a compromise between many of the governments in the Clermont County area asking the county to adopt an alternative allocation for those local government funds. We're asking you to sign off on this as well as a supporting entity. Under the terms of this agreement, it would last for a period of 5 years, which would provide us with some stability for budgeting purposes about what the allocation will be. The county would retain 48.545% of the allocation. The city of Milford, as the largest jurisdiction within largest city within the county, would receive 3.36% of the allocation remaining. 37.5% of the remaining funds would be shared equally amongst municipalities and townships, excluding Milford. This was previously 25% under the prior agreement. Finally, 62.5% of the remaining funds would be distributed to municipalities and townships exclusive of the city of Milford on a per capita basis based on the 2022 census. Previously, this was 75%. We will take a small cut on this. I don't want to gloss over the fact we are agreeing to take a small hit. But we do feel that this is better than what the state allocation would be for the township. We believe it's an equitable way to handle this. And there is an advantage to us to coming together and working with our surrounding communities to get this matter handled internally instead of letting it default to the state program. And we believe this adequately represents and provides for the township.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Gentlemen, any further discussion after the introduction there?
It's a much better deal than the other ones that Loveland was trying to present, so, yeah, I'm on board.
So we're, sorry, I need your motion and second, correct? Yeah. So we're seeking a motion for approval of Resolution 2022-26.
So moved?
Second.
The only comment I'll ask or state real fast on this, Ms. Ayers, we previously did pass a prior version of local government fund. This will supersede that, correct?
This will supersede that.
Okay, all right, thank you. No further discussion. Mr. Campbell, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I missed you. I was looking the other way. Did you have something additional?
No, I was just going to make a comment that what Ms. Ayers talked about was we're taking a small hit with this current agreement, but our prior method, what we've used all along for who knows how many decades, it was the city of Milford that was coming out like a bandit on this deal. And with this deal, we're getting much more than we had been getting. So depending on how you want to look at it, I think we're moving a huge step in the right direction with this.
Great. All right, thank you. Item 3, Resolution 2022-27, our nuisance abatement resolutions. Gentlemen, Mr. Flaherty, will you introduce?
Yes, sir. Resolution 2022-27 is a nuisance abatement resolution authorizing the abatement, control, or removal of vegetation, garbage, refuse debris pursuant to Section 505.87 of the Ohio Revised Code. So there are 9 properties on this list here. They are either high grass and or overgrown vegetation and or junk or debris discarded on the properties. The properties follow 556 Virginia Lane, 776 Fairway Drive, 991 Clough Pike, 4078 Mount Carmel Tabasco Road, 4496 Pearl Lane, 4498 Schoolhouse Road, 4503 Schoolhouse Road, 4780 Pewter Road, and 600 Dorjean Lane, and these are all located within Union Township.
All right, thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Gentlemen, we're being asked to seek approval of Resolution 2022-27. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion, gentlemen?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Becker.
Yeah, so I did do a drive-by on every one of these properties. And, some of them are really disappointing, really nice houses, nice neighborhoods, and they're trashed. I guess there's a reason for, I don't know. Regardless, it's disappointing to see some of the stuff. A couple of these, it did look like there was an attempt at maintaining it, or where they mowed the front, but maybe not the rear. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I did follow with Mr. Berkey on, I think it was 2 or 3 of these different properties. And we talked it through. I think he was going to double check on a couple of them. And regardless, even after approving this tonight, they still have, 2 weeks to be, I believe it was 2 weeks, if I understood him correctly, to be compliant on this. So I am agreeable with moving forward on all of them.
Thank you. No further discussion at this time. Mr. Campbell, call the roll.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Gentlemen, we've got item 4, Resolution 2022-28. Ms. Ayers, if you would, for introduction of the 22-28 resolution.
Yes, sir. As Mr. Becker has noticed during some of his financial reports, the township does maintain a significant amount of debt. I believe I'm at $21,490,000 of general obligation debt for next year that we maintain in what we call bond anticipation notes, or bands, you'll see. These are short-term debt that the township's been involved in for a significant period of time. This does require reauthorization every year, effectively refinancing every year. So what you have in front of you is that annual authorization to satisfy those band notes and get the debt handled for the year. I know there's been a lot of ongoing discussion about, what the LIBOR rate is and what the interest rate is. I can tell you I'm not an expert in this, but I do know that the township's been working with Mr. Brosart from Bradley Payne Advisors, who I very much believe is the expert in this matter. And I've had some ongoing meetings with him about what our options are moving forward and what the best way to proceed is. So he's taking a look at that, and we'll be able to provide information at the point this becomes not the best option for us. And we'll certainly bring that forward to the board if we decide and get to a point where it is best to move forward. So he's taking a look at that. For me, what this would do in the meantime is just do that annual refinance, and then if we decide there's a better option later, we will present it to you.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Gentlemen, we're seeking a motion for approval of 2022-28. Do you have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Gentlemen, do you have any discussion?
No, sir.
Seeing none, Mr. Campbell, call the roll, please.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item 5, Ms. Ayers, if you'd introduce resolution 2022-29.
Yes, thank you. What is in front of you is a request for authorization for me as the Township Administrator to work with our Energy Alliance partners to lock in natural gas energy rates at a point where it becomes financially viable and less than what the Duke Energy price is. By means of background, the township has had an existing energy aggregation program for electric and natural gas. Both have expired this month. There was a presentation, I believe in the March meeting prior to my arrival, where we discussed letting that, the previous agreements expire, and this month when they were due to come expire. We had looked multiple occasions about securing new rates. The problem was with the volatility in the market, the rates we were being quoted at renewal were actually higher than what the Duke standard rates would be. Obviously, that doesn't benefit the residents at any point. So the decision was made to let the energy aggregation contracts expire. The accounts go back to Duke with the idea that we continue to work with our energy broker, Energy Alliances, to determine when the right time is to lock in a new price. The market has been incredibly volatile. So previously, the board had passed a resolution to lock in a rate when it hit a certain rate. As soon as we passed that, it became irrelevant. The prices soared over that rate, so it never became applicable. What we're asking for you tonight is the ability to lock in a price when it becomes lower than Duke and becomes financially viable for the citizens. That'll provide us with some flexibility that we need in the market to be able to address it in a nimble manner. I would note this is just for natural gas at this time. It is not for electric. Electric will continue to be serviced by Duke Energy until we get to a point where we believe it becomes financially viable to lock in a price with that, and then we would bring that back to you. I know this is not ideal, but as the market's been lately, we're trying to work as quickly as possible to secure the best rates. That has just been incredibly difficult to do given the market volatility. And so trying to maintain that option while looking at what the Duke standard prices are and not put township residents into a situation where they're locked into a price higher than they could secure at Duke themselves.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ayers. Gentlemen, we're being asked to, we're seeking a motion for approval of Resolution 2022-29. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved?
Second.
Do we have any discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah, so we're going to do one of these on electric sometime in the future.
Yes, and speaking with our energy broker, they believe the appropriate time for that is going to be the springtime.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if I could tell you every intricacy of it, but they believe from the timing cycle of when we use natural gas versus when we use electric, that it's gonna be most appropriate and most financially viable to do that in the spring. Residents don't need to be worried about it at the moment, though. The accounts will go back to Duke. They don't need to do anything. And at the point where we believe we can lock in rates better than Duke's doing, we'll bring it back before this board and back before the citizens.
Sounds good. And also residential trash removal, is that a aggregation possibility?
I have not, I'll be honest with you, I have not looked into that very much. I do think it is something we can certainly look into, and I will be happy to take that as a note and look into whether that becomes appropriate and beneficial for the citizens.
Okay.
I also think, we spoke earlier about our new membership with the Cincinnati Center for Local Government. They handle a lot of these aggregation type programs, so I think it might be a good one to reach out to them and see if anyone else has had good luck with that and really leverage those contacts as a resource.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Dills?
Yeah, Ms. Ayers, you probably don't know, since you weren't here, but anybody up here can answer. Who sent out the notification letters last time the Board of Trustees did this? I believe it was the company itself, correct? For Duke Energy?
I believe so, but I could be mistaken.
That should be Dynergy,
Dynergy.
Energy Alliance.
I don't know what other word to use than pitiful. I thought it was spam mail. I chucked it. I'd really like to do something different if possible, having a Union Township logo on the letterhead or the envelope itself. I chucked it. I had no idea. I just, So, and I think there's a lot of other residents that probably did the exact same thing. But I want to make sure that we make it crystal clear that that residents have the liberty to opt out if they don't want it. Because a lot of folks reached out and they're like, I thought I was paying Duke, but I'm not. I'm with another company. Well, what is this? And so I just want to make sure that we make our communication efforts crystal clear on that. And then also, it was odd and silly. It was the beginning of this year. We got a credit back of like pennies. Like I remember I got this. It looked like a credit card application in the mail. Opened it up and it turns out it was a debit card and it was for like 59 cents when you call. I called the number and I chucked it. I'm like, where am I going to run a card for 59 cents? I think my wife got one as well for like $1.20. I chucked it in the trash. It's like so I don't know. I mean I get it, but it just is silly. So I bet you the cost to make the card and postage costs more than my 59-cent credit. So I just want to, maybe I'm just complaining about that more so than a solution. But all I'm saying is I like communication to be tenfold better and make it crystal clear and not look like a spam junk mail of Dynergy and all that.
I had been aware that there were some
Okay,
concerns
fair
with the
enough.
communication in the past, and we will make every effort to make that a little bit easier for the residents and put that out there. With regards to the debit cards, I had heard that previously as well, that it, probably costs more to mail out than the refunds were actually worth. I will tell you there are a fair amount of federal regulations in that, and so I think it's one of those things that we maybe didn't necessarily have the control over, and that when they hit a certain point, they have to do that by regulatory scheme. But we certainly can control and help assist the communication efforts, and I understand and appreciate that being a need.
Fair enough. That's all good.
Yeah, hey, in addition to the support with that, share for your awareness, I have spoken with the Energy Alliance's liaison and referenced your exact pain points as far as communication needs to be better. But if we can be a multifaceted approach, which here's the recommended or path forward on solution, as you're speaking on that, is getting the investment in infrastructure into Union Township having a communications resource.
Indeed.
And that's something where we can't just be reliant on vendors and or third parties. We've got to be able to have
but, you know, we have what we have right now. We don't have that resource, and that historically has not been there applied in that manner or that sense to be effective at making the communication on these complex issues and simplifying it. So, hear you. So appreciate it. Thanks for the comments. And with that, gentlemen, I'll close the discussion, and we'll take the roll call. Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, gentlemen, I've got 8:29. I want to be brief here. I've got a couple of just comments to share for new business before we move into comments from board members. I added this in here for new business in our list. So bottom line up front, one item here. The Board of Elections reached out to me recently with a problem and a request for us as a civic center to host the next election. Private businesses no longer want to host those elections. I'm going to share with you what I had received. Crossroads would like to no longer be the site of an election. Jungle Gyms had election signs all over their property without permission. The police were called because of the Go Brandon signs. Jungle Gyms received numerous complaints about the political signs. We had other events going on in our building. Those guests felt like they were being harassed just by stepping out of their car. One person described it like vultures swarming around their prey. What are the next steps? Sorry about any problems this may cause you. So I uniquely was on site that afternoon, and just keep it concise here. You know, I witnessed the security manager for Jungle Gyms be publicly accused of violating First Amendment rights and violating federal election law when he removed Let's Go Brandon signs from their property. He was even threatened that his boss, Jungle Gym, himself would be called. I quietly addressed the security manager because I could see that he was shaken up from the unreasonable shouting and accusations that had just occurred while he attempted to do his job. I shared that fortunately all candidates and elected leaders are not like that, and that as a member of Union Township Board, I apologize for the actions that had occurred while in our township. I feel like that represents us with our private businesses that are there. I offered to speak to Jungle Gym if needed, just for any resolution. So in wrap up of that, my recommendation, you know, unfortunately, with the request that's come in, this is going to take potential costs for the Civic Center to be opened up for the next election in August. But I would like for Susan to research hosting that election, work with the Clermont County Board of Elections, and I view it in a vein of further support and collaboration with our private businesses, but also another board, a Board of Elections. So at least just for her to research it, not looking for an answer right now. I know there's some due diligence that has to go into that as far as the cost, but this is a problem that has kind of rolled to this board. So if you have any comments, happy to
I'm a
happy to
little
hear.
confused.
Yes.
I mean, the Civic Center is already a polling location.
So they would be adding additional polling locations to the gym. It's precincts. There's 3 precincts at Crossroads.
So just expanding.
It would be taking, yes, but the gym has never been utilized. There has been a history of not wanting to utilize the gym because the foot traffic would generate a cleaning cost and would be damaged.
So they're voting downstairs currently.
Correct, but
and
not in
thinking
the
those
gym.
precincts here is too much for downstairs, so it has to go to the gym.
The gym would be
Now I
the
understand.
ideal solution, but that's
Okay.
for her to research
Okay.
and look at. But yes, that
right.
is
I understand.
that is the opportunity that they think is a solution to their problem. So, you know.
Seems like a no-brainer. This is where I vote, based off where I live at, and where the gym's open. And now the election's in August, so it's gonna be very low turnout, but you probably gotta act pretty quickly and make a decision. So, yeah, appreciate you bringing it up, and makes sense to do it. So it's a shame we can't use Crossroads and Jungle Gyms anymore, but, okay, let's solve the problem, and I'm good with it, so.
Just for everyone's awareness, I am meeting with the Board of Elections folks on Friday this week.
Okay.
I don't know enough about what resources they need and what they need to get set up and how many people it would be, so figured we'll start there and see where we go and what we need to have done, but stepping on it for an August election.
Yeah.
We're gonna meet with them and hear what they need and what we can do to help.
Excellent.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. All right, gentlemen, another quick item that I have is just with the concert series. Look, I envision that next year's concert series can take on different, different kind of structure and resources around that as far as, again, what's increased, what's decreased. But as it stands right now, I have spoken with our TV and recording in the past, in years past, and I've often kind of scratched my head and said, is it the right utilization of resources to be overtime on a Saturday night to then edit something for 2.5 days to then publish to the internet for someone to watch a concert now? I'd rather people show up in the moment to the concert. I know that there's a lot of legal issues with being able to just live stream something because we are not a, what is it, Ms. Ayers, we don't have a publishing license?
You
or-
have to have a particular license to avoid violating copyright laws.
So I would be asking for, you know, it's an outreach type of event, and that's why I just want to bring it to your attention. But just very candidly, I'd be in support of Ms. Ayers being able to research into what that does look in the future, but also in the immediacy. Do we need to basically have Justin there on overtime every Saturday of the summer doing those events? So I would just ask that she's able to research that, take a look at that, have the conversations, and see if it's, you know, what makes sense. But I'm not overly burdened if, you know, if the outcome is that there's a recorded event on a Saturday night. So I don't know if there's any comment or consideration.
I cannot imagine the viewership is very through the roof of who watches these concerts a week after they take effect. So I'm good with canceling it now, you know, instead of waiting until next summer. But that's just my thoughts. Yeah, I mean, people go to the shows live and they want to see it live, and I can't imagine. I'd be curious on those numbers. And probably, you know, of what the viewership is. I mean, what, 10 maybe of who watches the concerts after the fact on edited video. So I agree.
So in the past, there's been on, I believe it's been YouTube where I've seen it for any viewership stat, but it's been a very low number. And for your knowledge, I did reach out to Brandon Miller to ask about any data that we can generate off of our website. We don't currently historically have, again, it's one of those investments in technology pieces we've not actually tracked. So there's not an answer to be able to say this is how many times a video gets downloaded, or this is how many times someone goes to this landing page. And that to me is mind-blowing, but I'm not going to fault anyone on that, obviously. I just want to look forward towards, we should be able to answer those questions. What is the viewership? But and it also gets in an ambiguous area for, it goes on UTTV, but there's no method to be able to track the viewership. I had a lengthy discussion with Justin about that last year, as far as that goes as well, too. So it's really an unknown return, but I know that I've never heard from a resident about it. So I just want to give the opportunity for Ms. Ayers to just take a look at that as far as kind of an outreach element, so.
Sounds like there's an opportunity there.
All right, sounds like that's all a consensus. We don't necessarily need something formal there. And then just, hey, last, I'll ask Ms. Ayers if we can take a look at rules that will help meetings run effectively, efficiently, just for the positive nature of the community. One thing you've heard me mention often, gentlemen, is the consent agenda and being able to incorporate some different aspects into that. So I think there's a way to be able to be concise and make effective use of time. That is one thing that everyone is limited on. It's one of the most valuable resources that are out there. So we've got to be able to just be efficient and effective with that. So appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Gentlemen, I take us forward to board comments if there's anything further that you wanted to have on those items of new business that I added in there. But gentlemen, do you have any comments from board members?
I do. First, I wanted to say our sincere condolences. Thoughts and prayers go out to former trustee John McGraw. His father passed away last week, and his father lived to be 91 years old. That's a good life. Served as a U.S. Navy Korean War veteran. So just to John and his wife Angie and their family. So thoughts and prayers to them. Very brief. Miss Monica, 3-hour drive. Your testimony, that's what it is. It's a testimony. It's very powerful, and we truly appreciate you. And the offer of having a donor pay for someone until it's resolved is very, I'm very grateful. And we're going to make it happen, and it's not going to be shut down if we can avoid it. So just know that. And thank you for coming all the way out here. Very, very much appreciate you. Last thing is Mr. Taylor, thank you. Thank you for your team. I know that anytime we make a decision we're going to make someone very, very happy, or we're going to make someone very, very angry. And so I put it out there. I had asked many, many people about our dog park. Should we open them up to let dogs on leashes? I know Mr. Becker put out his poll, and I was dead on with him, about 80-20, 85-15. And so, our job, in my opinion, is to act on the greater good of what the public wants, and clearly they've spoken. Obviously, we're going to make 15-20% of those folks out there not very happy, but the 80% will be, and my kids and my family will definitely be one of them. But you ordered those signs, you got them put up, took the other ones down very quickly, and we're officially open. And I think dogs are a part of the family. So I'm good with it. And Ms. Ayers, thank you as well. We're not going to open up the, I'm going to call it the fenced-in area just yet, and start that. We'll do our research and see if we can't co-brand with another business to pay for those, so we don't have to have much, if little, tax burden on the residents. So that's great. Appreciate you doing that as well. So I just want to say, Mr. Taylor, good job to your team. Appreciate you very much. You did that quickly, and yeah, very much. So that is all I got, Mr. Logan.
Mr. Becker?
Yeah, a couple of things. So most of everything I kind of had for board discussion, I managed to work it in throughout the evening. A couple of remaining points. I guess, what I'm looking at right now is we had a law enforcement appreciation banquet. And that was really nice, and there's great stories about real heroes, like jumping into a lake of cold water and saving somebody from drowning. I'm sitting there thinking, and you're wearing a gun belt, a taser, and I don't know how that works. But anyways, somehow they do it. And something I got thinking about that, there was a lot of heroes that were honored that night, and there was a lot of heroes in that room. And the word hero does get abused and thrown around a lot. But, I was thinking it's beyond police and that get a lot of credit as they deserve, and fire and EMS that gets a lot of credit that they deserve. But there's a lot of other people that would just refer to as, the unsung heroes. And I've kind of talked about them in the past a little bit here. You get, our zoning department, great group to work with. Scott, we've talked about. Brenda, we've talked about. Matt, with his people, and, in the middle of the night, plowing snow and getting out and getting potholes done quick, because potholes can be dangerous, depending how big they get. Certainly annoying. And, I really just kind of wanted to point that out, that there's a lot of people around here that deserve appreciation. Some of them at this table. And Mr. Campbell's working his butt off lately, doing yeoman's work as fiscal officer. The last thing I have, I did want to address the issue with the baby box thing. So first off, Mike, I don't know if you know this, I was in the Ohio General Assembly for 8 years. So I guess my thoughts are on this is, in terms of any potential conflict between the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Administrative Code. So first off, the law of the land is the Ohio Constitution, meaning the law of the land of Ohio. Beneath that is the Ohio Revised Code. So those are all the laws that are passed by the Ohio General Assembly, signed into law. Below that is the Ohio Administrative Code. Well, the Ohio Administrative Code is just simply a collection of agency rules that are created by those agencies. It's my understanding, I'm not sure about this, but it's my understanding that those rules do have the force of law. So with those rules in place, then we do need to be compliant. Being as these are agency rules, as opposed to Ohio Revised Code laws, my thoughts are, again, I don't know, my thoughts are those same agencies can waive those rules. I think that needs to be looked at. Regardless, at the end of the day, if we are out of compliance with any of this, we need to get into compliance. I mean, whatever it takes, whatever we need to do that. But I think the first step is to find out, one, are we out of compliance? Number two, can these agency rules be waived, and that, we're in sync with the Ohio Department of Health, and they bless what we're doing, and everybody's happy. So that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Trustee Becker. Gentlemen, appreciate it. Thanks for the time tonight, effort. Just get us wrapped up here. So acknowledge that today is Flag Day. And as we look at our upcoming events, the next summer concert is the Monday Night Big Band, which sounds confusing. That's the name. It's Saturday, June 18th at 7 p.m. And Model Behavior is Saturday, July 2nd at 8 p.m. Again, we get the Farmers Market continuing to grow at the Civic Center parking lot each Friday from 4 to 7 p.m. Township offices will be closed in observance of Independence Day, July 4th, and also Juneteenth on June 20th, both federal holidays that are mandated. The next trustee meeting is July 12th, 2022 at 6 p.m. At this time, gentlemen,
Seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
No further discussion. Mr. Campbell, call the roll.
Mr. Dills?
Yes.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Logue?
Yes.
We're adjourned at 8:44 PM. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you.